can't imagine what it's like to have a dream come true. That's what the championship was for me, but it's history now. There's another championship out there with a lot of people after it. It's back to business. Wow, the 90s. It's going to be a decade of new faces. The changing of the guard will be completed. Look what happened in Daytona. Another dream come true. The Unicap Challenge. I won it a year ago. Today an old name, but a new generation. Kyle Petty. He's got a shot at a $228,000 bonus. We want to see that money go to Atlanta. This is one tough racetrack. She snuck up on me a time or two. All of a sudden, you're just hanging on. Hey, we got another heck of a season ahead for you.
Gentlemen, start your engine. ESPN entering a new decade as the world's leader in motorsports coverage presents Speed World. Today, live from North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham, the Goodwrench 500 Winston Cup race. A beautiful day in the sandhills of North Carolina. It's a little breezy and cool. However, yesterday's rains have moved out. There is very little chance of rain this afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins, and welcome to The Rock. The first of 20 Winston Cup races we'll bring you in 1990. 2 races already during this season, and already a couple of bizarre events. First of all, Derek Cope, a surprise winner at the Daytona 500. Kyle Petty has won his first pole position ever for this race. And then there was last weekend at Richmond when Mark Martin won his second Winston Cup race, but then was fined and penalized for having an illegal spacer plate in the engine. Let's get more on that situation now as we go to one of 2 pit reporters for the afternoon, the editor of Stock Car Racing magazine, Dick Bergeron.
Well, Bob, what Mark Martin's team did last weekend was perhaps within the spirit of the rules, but outside the letter of the rules. And the letter of the rules says you cannot bolt on any bigger than a 2-inch spacer. Martin's group argues, however, that these spacers have been welded on to intake manifolds, and spacers bigger than 2 inches had been welded on. If they'd done that, it would have been just fine. This is an intake manifold that has had a spacer welded onto it. It's identical in configuration to the manifold they had on the car last week, except this one's welded, theirs was bolted, and this is the same size, same shape manifold they have on the car today, and it has passed inspection. So they've been through a pretty tough week of a lot of controversy. They're going to appeal this decision. At least one NASCAR official has said perhaps what has happened here has been a misunderstanding. Well, Mark Martin's team hopes there's no misunderstanding once the green flag drops today at Rockingham. They brought the same car with them they used last fall to win the race here. They're starting on the outside pole. They'd like to win this thing cleanly. They're going to be starting outside a fella who's had perhaps the best week of his entire racing career. And right now he's with my colleague, Jerry Punch. Jerry?
Well, Dick, you're indeed right. This driver's had a great week. He ran the same car at Richmond last week, qualified 7th, finished 11th. 7 come 11. Well, they rolled the dice here, brought the same race car to here. They hadn't tested the car. I thought it'd be okay. Was it okay? 148.7 miles per hour on the pole the first time in his career. Kyle, the car looks to be the class of the field. But with this good a race car, can you be patient for a 4.5-hour race?
I don't know. You know, it's hard to be patient. I've never been a patient person. I've always tried to make things happen. But in a 4.5-hour race at Rockingham like this, you just got to lay back and bide your time. I've seen Darrell do it 100 times, and my father and Pearson, and all the great drivers have done it. So maybe today we can pull something off here.
Speaking of his dad, Kyle's had a great week. Father Richard hasn't. He had a poor qualifying effort starting back in 32nd spot. Then yesterday in the final practice session, he broke a shock in the car, just running about half throttle, spun the car, tagged the wall. The car was heavily damaged. They carried the car back to the shops in Randleman last night, unveiled the Daytona 500 car, the car that ran so well at Daytona, their Speedway car. They had planned to run in a couple weeks at Atlanta. That's the car they will start from the rear of the field here today. And Ned, Jarrett, a lot of veteran drivers have had their troubles already this year.
Jerry, as a matter of fact, there are several drivers who've had major problems. Ken Schrader qualified on the pole for the Daytona 500, wrecked that car, had to go to the rear of the field. Then 2 weeks ago, while testing here at Rockingham, he wrecked the car that he planned to run in this race. Got a little sore from it, too. Then, after qualifying on Thursday, he wrecked the car that he qualified and has to go to the back of the field with a backup car. Benny Parsons, what's happening with all these wrecks?
I don't know. What about Dale Earnhardt, Ned? He had the Daytona 501, folks. The last corner blew a right rear tire, was not able to win, finished 5th. He went to Richmond in the last practice session on Saturday afternoon, crashed that car, had to use a backup. At least he did finish 2nd, so he salvaged something.
2 other drivers, besides Petty and Schrader, have wrecked here and will have to go to the rear of the pack. Sterling Marlin wrecked his car that he qualified yesterday afternoon in practice, so he'll be at the rear of the pack. And Butch Miller didn't even get to qualify because he wrecked, had to go to a backup car, and it was the last car the Travis Carter team has in their shops. Benny, do the radial tires have something to do with all these wrecks?
Well, you know they do, Ned, because when the Indianapolis cars use their radials for the first time in Indianapolis, all kind of problems. And these guys are basically having the same problems. The car just simply go away. All of a sudden, the car goes away. So I'm sure the radials have some effect.
Well, I think that we're going to see one exciting race here today, but Bob Jenkins, there's still another story with a driver who had a problem here this week.
And Ned, that driver is Davey Allison. Friday, after engaging in some horseplay with a crew member, Davey fainted. He was hospitalized overnight. Test proved to be negative. However, he'll only drive 1 lap today and then turn the car over to relief driver Hut Strickland. Our resident doctor, Jerry Punch, will explain further in just a moment. Stand by for live racing at North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham. Our Speed World coverage of the Goodwrench 500 being brought to you by today's Chevrolet, who invite you to see why nobody's winning like the heartbeat of America. By Purolator, the world's largest filter company. And by Quaker State, the big Q is one tough motor oil. 38 cars and drivers are standing by to go 500 miles here at the Rock. We'll be back with more right after this. We're delighted you could join us for our first telecast of Winston Cup racing in 1990, the Goodwrench 500 from North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham. Let's take a look at this facility that the cars will be racing on here this afternoon. It is 1.017 miles in length. The pole lap time was 24.613 seconds, and the speed 148.751, banking between 8 and 25 degrees. Race length 492 laps, fuel range 90 to 95 laps. Here now is the die-hard starting grid. On the pole will be Kyle Petty in car number 42, his first career pole at 148.751 miles an hour. He's in the peak Pontiac. Starting on the outside of row number 1, last week's winner in the Folgers Coffee Ford, number 6, Mark Martin at 147.623. Going to row number 2, it's Alan Kulwicki in the Xerox Ford, car number 7. He was second here a year ago. Outside of that second row will be Dale Earnhardt, the current Winston Cup points leader in the number 3 Goodwrench Chevrolet. In row number 3, it's Darrell Waltrip, a 4-time winner here at this track, the Tide Chevrolet, car number 17. And then Ken Schrader outside of row number 3 in the Kodiak Chevrolet, car number 25, the Daytona pole winner. In row number 4, it's Rusty Wallace in the number 27 Miller Genuine Draft Pontiac. He's the defending race winner. Starting in 8th position is the Junior Johnson Budweiser Ford, driven by Jeff Bodine, number 11. Junior has more wins here at this racetrack than any other. In the 5th row, it's rookie Rob Moroso, who is the current points leader in the rookie division. He drives the Crown Petroleum Oldsmobile, car number 20. In 10th starting position will be Sterling Marlin in the Sunoco Oldsmobile, car number 94. Going to row number 6, it's Bill Elliott in the Coors Milling Ford, car number 9. And outside of that row will be the Kodak Film Oldsmobile, driven by Phil Parsons. The car number is 4. In the 7th row, the number 66 Trop Arctic Pontiac, driven by Dick Trickle, last year's Rookie of the Year. In 14th starting position, the Country Time Lemonade Pontiac, number 30, driven by Michael Waltrip. The 8th row has the Daytona 500 winner, the Purelator Chevrolet number 10, with Derek Cope behind the wheel. In 16th starting position, it's Dave Marcus in the Big Apple Market Chevrolet, car number 71. Going to row number 9 now, it's Ernie Irvin in car number 90. In 18th starting position, Davey Allison in number 28. The 10th row has Harry Gant and Rick Mast in car number 2. And as you look at the rest of the starting lineup, remember there are several cars that, although they are listed here in their originally assigned positions, they will be going to the rear of the field because of accidents and other things that have occurred here in the last 3 days.
And they'll be doing that on these pace laps that they're making right now, Bob Jenkins, of course, including those Ken Schrader in car number 25, Richard Petty in 43, Sterling Marling in car number 94.
Now, we told you about Davey Allison's problem. Let's get more from our doctor, Jerry Punch, on pit road.
Well, Bob, Davey did pass out here on Friday morning during a rain delay in between practice sessions, so it was not in the race car. He was flown to Charlotte Memorial Hospital and evaluated by a couple of excellent neurologists there. And what they decided they would have to do is keep him overnight for observation and run a lot of tests: electrocardiogram, electroencephalogram, and echocardiogram. They discharged him yesterday afternoon, and you're looking right now at the young man, Hud Strickland, who will climb in the car. They will not let Davey race the car here today as a matter of precaution only at Rockingham. The Davey will climb out of the car here following the green flag. He is on pit road now. He will fall in at the rear of the field. And Hud Strickland, the 28-year-old Calera, Alabama driver, will get in the car and race the car today for 492 laps. Now, Davey Allison will not leave the racetrack. He will stay in the pits here and try to help Hud Strickland as far as the handling on the race car. So it should be an interesting day here for the Allison crew here in the car number 28. Bob?
All right, thank you, Jerry. And now we have 3 in-car cameras that will be working for you this afternoon. We're looking at Dick Trickle in the number 66 car. We'll have a face cam on him to see how his driving technique is. And, of course, also the regular in-car camera that will allow us to see who is in front of and behind him. We also have an in-car camera riding with last week's winner at Richmond, Mark Martin, in the Folgers car number 6. Face cam on him, and also the regular one out the front and the back of the car. And our third in-car camera will be carried by Harry Gant in car number 33. The Skoal Bandit Oldsmobile in his car also carries the bumper cam, and that should provide some excellent pictures for us as we go through this afternoon. Jimmy Maycar will be carrying the crew cam. Now, remember, we debuted this crew cam with Jimmy last year at this time, and we put it on him again for this afternoon's race. Well, gentlemen, it seems like such a short time that we said goodbye from Atlanta, and by golly, here we are at Rockingham, and they're running the radials here this afternoon, Benny.
Bob, and when I talked about the radials a moment ago, it's just the feel is different to the drivers. They're not the same as the 5-ply tire, and they really don't know how to react. That's the problem they're having. They go in the corner, the car feels fine, and all of a sudden it's backing towards the wall. As Ned mentioned a moment ago, when we start running the radials each and every race, I think these fellas will get accustomed to them.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to ESPN's auto racing coverage of 1990 Winston Cup style. A great crowd on hand today at the Rock, and here we go with the Goodwrench 500, the green flag flies. Petty leads lap 1. The last time he led a Winston Cup race was in July at Pocono. Davey Allison has come in for his driver change. Here's Jerry Punch.
Davey brings the Hamilton Ford on the pit road. Now, they practiced this yesterday afternoon. 29-year-old Davey Allison will climb out of the right side window. So before he does, he will sit in the car and help Hud Strickland get the seatbelt fastened. Now Davey jumps out of the car, will run around and come across the wall as they are trying to buckle in Hud Strickland. Gentlemen?
All right, as we watch that driver change in the pit area on the track, we have a battle going on between the number 7 and 17 cars. That's Darrell Waltrip in the 17 car on the high side of the racetrack. Oh, Rusty Wallace bobbles badly coming out of the 4th turn, allowing Darrell Waltrip in the 17 car to go to the inside and retake that position. That's Phil Parsons in the number 4 car following Rusty Wallace.
And you can see the 28 car going out of the pits. He's 2 laps down, Bob. Hud Strickland relieving for Davey Allison.
So it is is a definite penalty that they will have to overcome here, starting 2 laps down, but Davey Allison did not feel comfortable running the entire distance. Now watch Rusty Wallace here almost lose the car coming out of turn number 4. Is that the radials, Benny?
Well, I don't know. We saw Rusty Wallace do that several times last year, so let's don't jump on the radials too soon.
All right, the leader of the race is Kyle Petty. Running second is Mark Martin. Third is Dale Earnhardt. Fourth is Alan Kulwicki. And then this 5th, 6th, and 7th position, including Darrell Waltrip. Look at the lead that Kyle Petty has opened up already in the first 5 laps of the event.
In talking to the competitors down the pits this week, they're all just marveling at the horsepower that Kyle Petty has in that big Pontiac. They tell me John Wilson evidently has found something.
And they're also putting that horsepower to good use, Benny, because the car has been handling super. It just like it's tied on a string going around the turns. You saw Mark Martin's car go a little high behind him there, but Kyle just driving right on the low groove where he wants to be.
Gary Nelson, a former color commentator here in our ESPN telecast, the crew chief on that car. Here's the view that Mark Martin has as he pursues Kyle Petty, who is just ahead. And you can see how Kyle is already moving in on some of the slower traffic as they go into turn number 3. Here is Waltrip, Rusty Wallace, and Phil Parsons once again running in single file formation. But now Rusty looks to the inside coming off the 4th quarter and tries to take that 5th position away from Darrell Waltrip. Now, Rusty Wallace, of course, one of those carrying new colors this year. He has a new sponsor, Miller Genuine Draft. And, of course, Phil Parsons in that yellow number 4 car. We've seen Rick Wilson drive that car for several years, but now Phil Parsons is behind the wheel of the Kodak Oldsmobile.
Yes, I wanted to tell the folks that you were not crazy, because that is Phil Parsons in the car number 4.
Wonder which one of us will be the first to make an error and put somebody in the wrong car.
Probably be me.
Parsons and Waltrip now battling for that 6th spot. Phil to the inside and Darrell Waltrip to the outside. Waltrip, of course, still in the Tide Chevrolet, car number 17. Here's a battle. Ken Schrader in car number 25. Now, remember, he was one of those that started from the rear of the field, and so was the 94 car of Sterling Marlin, as the 33 machine of Harry Gant gets high on the racetrack and loses a spot to Sterling.
Yeah, Gant is backing up. Schrader now moves into the 25th position. Marlin moves to 26.
Oh, we have a car spinning in this 3rd turn. That's Michael Waltrip. And I believe everybody is going to get by without being involved. But, boy, it was close. One car just missed Michael as he spun down the banking. Waltrip still has the car running and is going to be able to pull away, but it brings out our first caution flag of the afternoon.
That boy's blessed. He is absolutely blessed.
Yeah, you can see some damage on the right front of the car there, Benny. He hit something. Don't know if he hit something to cause the spin or during the spin somebody might have clipped him.
In any case, on lap number 10, the first caution of the race comes out because of a spin involving Michael Waltrip in the Country Time Maxwell House car.
And you wonder why he wouldn't go to the pits. Well, he can't go to the pits. He has to catch up with the field, and then he'll go in the pits and change those tires.
Here it is again. You can see the car almost hitting the outside wall.
Larry Pearson's car, I believe, clipped that right front just a little bit. Larry Pearson, car number 16.
More from Jerry Punch on what happened to Michael Waltrip.
Well, Michael was complaining about the car being a little ill-handling in the early laps here, and the car apparently just getting away from. They're having trouble getting some heat in the radial tires. It will bring Michael down pit road here in the Country Time Pontiac and try to get a tire change on the car. They have literally prepared themselves to rebuild a race car if they have to. They realize this track is so tough on machines, and now Michael will come down. They are being given the one-to-go signal. The field is. It'll be green next time by. They will have to hustle if they're going to make an exchange here. The car now comes to rest on pit road. They will change right side tires. You see some of the sheet metal damage on the right front of the car, part of the grille, and NASCAR officials are saying you're going to have to tape that. And now Bill Engel, the crew chief, runs across with a big wide yellow tape. We'll begin to tape some of the sheet metal and fiberglass to the front body of the car. Meanwhile, the crew will scramble around to the left side and change left side tires. Early on, troubles here for the Bahari Racing Pontiac of Michael Waltrip.
Not only is Michael Waltrip in the pits, but also Brett Bodine and Larry Pearson made pit stops. Here it is from Dick Trickle's point of view. Watch up ahead as Michael Waltrip gets sideways in corner number 2.
Well, as he comes off of the turn, it looked like the back end just went out from under him there. Trickle didn't see anything but smoke for a little bit, but he was able to get down on the inside, and the green flag waving.
Dale Earnhardt has gotten a good jump on the restart. He is now in 2nd place. He has passed Mark Martin in that 2nd spot.
Kyle Petty continues to lead, and Alan Kulwicki runs in 4th position. The 5th place car is Rusty Wallace. 6th is Darrell Waldrop. Petty now beginning once again to pull away from the rest of the field.
First car out of the race is J.T. Hayes. He has parked the car number 91. It's sponsored by the folks of Corinth, Mississippi. We wanted to give J.T. an opportunity to get in Winston Cup racing.
This was his first start in Winston Cup competition. We take a look at the top 10 now with 14 laps completed of 492 that will make up this 500-mile event. Kyle Petty, the leader, followed by Dale Earnhardt, Mark Martin, Alan Kulwicki, and Rusty Wallace. 6 through 10, Darrell Waltrip, Bill Parsons, Jeff Bodine, Rob Moroso, and Bill Elliott. Now, the right guard halfway challenge is back. The driver leading at the halfway point will get $10,000, and you can win a Pontiac Grand Prix SE. Dial 1-900-246-0101. It costs 95 cents a call, but if you do call that number, you can register to win the car that will be given away after the halfway point if you know the driver that is leading at the halfway point here at Rockingham. Back with more of our live coverage in a moment. At Rockingham, and for the second time this afternoon, the yellow flag is out on lap number 18. It involved a spin with number 57, Jimmy Spencer, and here's how it occurred.
Well, he got together. He tried to come down on the bottom of the racetrack. Unfortunately, Sterling Marlin in the 94 car was already there. Touched the left rear of Jimmy Spencer's car, and around goes the Pontiac.
But he kept the car going.
Pitting on the backstretch, so now going into the pits. The car that hit him, the car number 94 that just touched him as they went into turn 1, Sterling Marlin, is a backup car. He wrecked the car he qualified and had to go to the rear of the field. Here's Spencer now coming into the pits. I'm sure they'll change all 4 tires on the Heinz Pontiac. Perhaps flat spotted him a little bit.
We see Mickey Gibbs sitting behind Jimmy Spencer. The Ford, the days in Ford behind, that's Mickey Gibbs.
I believe Terry Labonte also pulled into the pit area there on the backstretch as they put some fuel in the car, the Heinz Tomato Grand Prix Pontiac. And Jerry Punch is down in the Kyle Petty pit with Gary Nelson. Jerry?
Well, Bob, we're talking about pacing yourself here for a 492-lap race, and but the strategy's a little bit different here, Gary. What did you tell Kyle about his pace early on?
Well, we ran all of last year, taking it easy and trying to be there to finish, and we got in so many wrecks by being back in a pack. We just decided this year to start from the first race on, run wide open, flat out, and maybe we'll be up front. That's working so far for us.
Will the car take it all day, 4.5 hours, wide open here at Rockingham?
Well, the way we look at it, if it doesn't take it, we'll go back and fix whatever's weak, and next time we'll get better rather than take it easy and just barely finish with a weak part. So our team is in it for the long haul. We feel like if we continue to make the car stronger every week, the best way we can find our weaknesses is to run flat out, so that's what we're doing.
Well, this man should know he built the race car that's currently leading the field here at Rockingham. Bob?
Bit of a change of strategy for the Peak Pontiac crew, headed by Gary Nelson and driver Kyle Petty. Still under caution here. We'll take another break and be back with more green flag racing at The Rock. NASCAR Winston Cup Racing returns in 1990 on ESPN at Rockingham, North Carolina, and the Goodwrench 500. The green flag flies. We are back to racing after our second caution of the afternoon, involving a spin in turn number 2 involving Jimmy Spencer. The leader of the race is Kyle Petty in car number 42. Now the 28 car leads the 42 down the backstretch. That is Hut Strickland in substitution for Davey Allison, making up one of 2 laps lost on the driver exchange. A good battle going on for second position. That is Mark Martin on the high side. Alan Kulwicki on the low side is car number 7. And trailing in the 27 car is defending Winston Cup champion Rusty Wallace.
Kulwicki has the spot. He gets underneath Mark Martin, goes into second place. Here comes Rusty Wallace, going to take over the spot as well, looks like.
Indeed, Rusty does move around Mark Martin going down the backstretch. And so Rusty Wallace moves into 3rd position.
How about old Hut Strickland, that black car? That's the first guy we've seen pass Kyle Petty.
Yep, and he's pulling away a little bit from him, Benny.
He really is. I mean, he just didn't pass him. He is pulling away.
At the number 5 car, driven by Ricky Rudd, has made great progress in this event. He started at the 25th position and is already up to 9th, looking for 8th, running alongside Darrell Waltrip at car number 17. Those two cars go in side by side into turn 3. There's the number 11 car of Jeff Bodine trailing, and Ricky Rudd picks up another position.
Actually, that puts him in 6th position, Bob. He has been one of the fastest cars on the racetrack as far back as he started to come through the traffic that he has. It means that car is really working. They were very disappointed with that car here on Thursday when they got here. Had a very poor qualifying run. Of course, it rained qualifying out on Friday, the second round of qualifying, so he had to take what he got the first day. But they made major changes on the car, and it's working.
Well, Ricky Rudd has finished second at this racetrack on 3 different occasions. So in his 27th start at Rockingham, he is looking in very, very good position despite the poor qualifying effort. Once again, there is the leader of the race, Kyle Petty. The battle for second position now involving Alan Kulwicki and Rusty Wallace.
Hud Strickland, the last lap, had a problem going off the 4th corner. He did not have a problem that time.
Well, that crew is hoping for a caution flag again. That would get one of the laps back. They lost 2 laps in the driver exchange.
That's right. What happens when the caution flag comes out, the pace car goes in front of the leader, which is...
And here it is. Spin. Rick Wilson and Larry Pearson are together in turn number 2. Another spin, the 3rd of the afternoon in the first 27 laps. And here comes Hud Strickland down the straightaway.
No caution.
No caution. No caution.
Well, wow. The cars got going, and the Robert Yates crew that owns the car, number 28, said, oh, we had to have a caution there, fellas. There was 2 cars that spun, but they got straightened out. Here goes Larry Pearson, one of the cars that spun around and coming on around the track.
Well, that is a tough break for Hud Strickland. They could have made up half of what they lost. Now, here is a replay. These guys were running very close to each other for about the last 3 laps, and this is what happened as they went into 1.
Same thing as a moment ago.
Exactly.
Rick Wilson came down, Larry Pearson was down there, and they touched, and around they go.
And a very similar situation yesterday that eliminated your son, Ned, after an excellent, excellent run to the Busch Grand National race, eventually won by Dale Earnhardt.
Well, that can happen very easily. You can misjudge the car on the inside. You cut down, want to get to the low side of the racetrack. And sometimes the car is there, and you see what happens. Now, the 75 car, Rick Wilson lost a lap. Car number 16, Larry Pearson, did not lose a lap.
But Larry is very close to being lapped right now. You can see him leading this trio down the backstretch. And Kyle Petty has really closed in now on Hud Strickland in the 28 car and is trying to put that vehicle 2 laps down as it was earlier. The number 17 car of Darrell Waltrip is having some problems. He's running that high groove. He must have some handling problems.
Looks like the car, we can't really tell. Ooh, he and Rob Moroso almost get together. That blue number 20 is Moroso, one of the Rookie of the Year challengers, but Darrell going awfully high in the corners means that he's up there trying to keep those tires cool so they get some adhesion.
Probably the car is a little bit loose on him, and he's just letting sort of have his reins as he goes into the turns. Earnhardt's doing a similar thing up in front of him. And you can see the black car of Earnhardt. He's running very high. Later on, that groove will work for him.
Earnhardt and Bill Elliott running together. Now, this is the groove that Dale used yesterday in the Busch Grand National race, that very high line between turns 1 and 2, but he was using the lower groove between turns 3 and 4.
As Ned mentioned, that groove will work later on in the day, but it's just too early now. Earnhardt losing a lot of time up on the top side of the racetrack. He and Darrell Waltrip both.
And look who are running side by side. Dale Earnhardt and Derek Cope, memories of Daytona.
Well, Earnhardt certainly gives him plenty of running room once they get to the corners, because he's in a world of his own up there, not taking any racing room away from anybody else.
Cope's car appears to be working well on the bottom side of the racetrack, although Earnhardt is staying with him. But now you can see Derek moving ahead.
And that drops Earnhardt back to 10th place. He started 4th.
The number 27 car of Rusty Wallace, the number 6 car of Mark Martin, the 5 of Ricky Rudd are battling for position as they try to lap the 16 car of Larry Pearson.
Hey, Ricky Rudd is looking very impressive in the lead back here at Chevrolet, coming from 25th now up to the 4th position.
We saw him at breakfast this morning and had a big smile on his face and was very confident that things were going to work well for him this afternoon, despite the fact that he started very near the back of the pack. Rusty Wallace in 27, and Ricky Rudd in number 5. And we're watching them battle for position from Mark Martin's car. Now Rudd pulling alongside, coming out of corner number 4.
He just took the low groove, Bob, and got traction and just zipped right up on the inside of Rusty Wallace and moved around.
Picked up another position.
Moves him into 3rd.
Very impressive run by Ricky Rudd.
And now Wallace and Mark Martin are side by side in turn 3. This is the battle for 4th position.
Looks like Mark Martin has him. At least he has position going down in the corner.
Rusty Wallace, of course, won this race last year and won the Unical Challenge money, and that's the only time it's been done. Since then, it's been stacking up at a rate of $7,600 per event, and right now it's up to $228,000. That's the amount of bonus money that Kyle Petty will win today if he wins the race. Back in a moment with more. Bob Jenkins, Ned Jarrett, Benny Parsons, Dick Bergeron, and Jerry Punch back at the Rockingham, North Carolina. The Gene Goodwrench 500 underway here. Our first telecast of Winston Cup racing in 1990. The leader is the number 42 car, the pole sitter, Kyle Petty. That car trailing him is driven by Hut Strickland in relief for Davey Allison. And as you can see, Kyle has now put him once again 2 laps down. Running back in the 10th position is the number 3 car driven by Dale Earnhardt. And that car has not been performing quite like they would like for it to in the last few laps.
As a matter of fact, he has dropped back to 12th now, Bob. He's continuing to go back, and 2 other cars are passing him right now. So he's dropping back to 14th. Dale Earnhardt is not having a very good run, certainly not typical of him.
So Dale Earnhardt and crew will try to figure out what's wrong. Maybe we can get an answer to the question, what is wrong, as we go to Jerry Punch, who's with Richard Childress.
Well, Bob, Richard Childress is the car owner here for the Earnhardt machine. And Richard, the car started 4th and now is running close to 15th in the field. What's the problem?
Well, we don't know if we got a tire going down. He thinks he's got a tire going down right now.
They're hoping to get a caution flag. Apparently the car is just very, very loose.
Yeah, he's talking right now. It's just real loose getting in. We don't know we changed the gear, if something might have been wrong with the gear, or if we do have a tire going down. We've got a problem somewhere.
Dale trying to be very, very careful here. That's a brand new race car they brought here at Rockingham, so they're trying to be very careful not to use the race car up too early. Another crew that has their hands full is the crew of Darrell Waltrip, and Dick Bergeron is there.
And Jerry, I'm with Darrell Waltrip's crew chief, Jeff Hammond. Jeff, you had hoped to run better than this. What's your problem?
Right now, Dick, it seems like we really believe we got a little too much wedge in the car, and the car is actually spinning off the right rear on account of it. So we want to get in next time by and put a little bit of, take a little wedge out of the car. The car is loose up off the corner because of this. We can't get back in the gas very good. So, you can see already that there's a lot of guys having this kind of problem, including Dale Earnhardt. So I think we can fix it.
And Dale Earnhardt is coming in. Jerry Punch is with him.
They could not afford to wait any longer and take a gamble. The car now running here in the pits. Earnhardt sitting very quietly inside the machine. In fact, they have shut the engine off, and they are going to change right side tires. They take the right side Eagles off on the Goodwrench Chevrolet, fill it up with fuel. Now the car is fired. Earnhardt in the second gear. 15.8 seconds. He is down and away.
And Jerry went 1 lap down during that exchange. He was more than a half a lap behind Kyle Petty before he came into the pits. He had dropped all the way back to 21st position. You're right, he had no choice but to come in and make that change. And here's Hut Strickland trying to move back around Kyle Petty, and that does put him back within 1 lap, Bob, if he can stay out there in front of it.
Well, those 2 cars have been racing for the last few laps, and now the number 5 car, driven by Ricky Rudd, has moved into 2nd position, passing Alan Kulwicki.
The 42, something's wrong with the 42. He just doesn't have the strength he had a moment ago.
There you can see that Ricky Rudd started in 25th at the end of 15 laps, was 11th, and he has now moved into 2nd position. There's Alan Kulwicki trailing him in the number 7 Xerox Ford. And now Ricky Rudd begins to reel Kyle Petty in just a little bit as Hut Strickland in the number 28 car begins to pull away from the leader of the race. And here is the interval now between the 1st and 2nd cars.
The handle has just went away on Rudd's car. All of a sudden, I don't know what's happened to it.
That's Jimmy Means, the number 52 car, high in turns 1 and 2. As Kyle Petty, a number 42, continues to lead the race, and we have smoke coming from a car just ahead of the leader.
It's Charlie Baker, 93.
And the caution is coming out.
And now Hut Strickland will make up one of those 2 lost laps. There he crosses the line ahead of Kyle Petty. So Hut Strickland 1 lap down. There's Charlie Baker in car number 93. He's from Stockton, California. Has come in after smoke began pouring from that car at the end of the backstretch, and he pulls the car back into the garage area.
And Bob, this is a welcome caution for a lot of drivers out there that were having problems, handling problems with their car. They'll be able to come in, make some adjustments, get new tires on the cars.
51 laps have been completed.
And let me show you what's going to happen, folks. The pace car has picked up the leaders, and that means that you can start pitting now. The pit road has been closed. This is on the left of the screen is the front pits. On the right of the screen is your right pits. Now see here, all the front runners are coming in the pits. No one is in the back pits.
Let's go to Dick Berggren, who's in Ricky Rudd's pit for the change.
And there's a loose tire in Ricky Rudd's pit. It rolled out almost in front of some of the other cars. Waddell Wilson alertly grabbed hold of it, pulled it back in again. Jerry Punch, meanwhile, is with the leader, Kyle Petty. Jerry?
They have changed right side tires, now moving to the left side of the car, scampering the high-speed ballet. Left side tires going on, finishing the fueling of the car. Kyle had complained the car was getting very, very loose. He is down and away. Likewise, Alan Kowicki as Rudd and other drivers now exiting the front pit. Gentlemen?
Now you see all the cars are leaving the front pits. They're just getting to the back pits. So that means everyone pitting on the back straightaway has to fall in behind the cars pitting on the front straightaway.
Big disadvantage to pit back there.
The front pits are nearly vacant now as those who pitted here go back out onto the racetrack while there's lots of action in the back pit. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Rockingham, North Carolina, and the Goodwrench 500 Winston Cup race. Now, reminder that you can register to win a Pontiac Grand Prix SE by dialing 1-900-246-0101. Then if you know who leads at the halfway point later in our event and are called, you will win a Pontiac Grand Prix SE. Now, the green flag comes out once again, and the race resumes at Rockingham. The leader of the event is Rusty Wallace in car number 27. The number 3 car running alongside of Rusty Wallace, now pulling ahead of Rusty Wallace as they go down the backstretch, is Dale Earnhardt. However, he lost a lap on the pit stop. Now we see a challenge for the lead involving Kyle Petty and Rusty Wallace, and Kyle Petty moves ahead. Now let's get more on this situation regarding Dale Earnhardt and Jerry Punch.
There was speculation in the Earnhardt pit that he may have a tire going down. When he made that pit stop, as you saw him just 2 laps ago, he changed right side tires before the caution flag. He did not have a tire going down. The car was just very, very loose. The same problem began to plague Kyle Petty, Ricky Rudd, and other drivers. Their cars began to get looser and looser almost very suddenly here. They couldn't get the car into the corner. They hadn't been able to figure it out. I've asked a couple of crew chiefs why the car's getting so loose. The radios aren't wearing it all. They're not showing the temperature. They don't have an answer either for it.
Well, we heard Gary Nelson explain earlier in the event how Kyle was going to go to the front, and he indeed is. But now look at this gaggle of cars racing down the backstretch. We have Mark Martin, Larry Pearson, Bill Elliott. Also in there is Mike Alexander, the low side of the racetrack, Sterling Marlin, and Ken Schrader. And we're getting the view from Mark Martin's car.
That's Jeff Bodine in the Budweiser Ford. Say Terry Labonte, didn't you?
Nah, not you. There is Bodine, followed by Mark Martin. They race into turns 3 and 4. Now Mark looking to the inside of Jeff as they come out of the corner, past the main grandstand here, and Mark Martin pulls ahead of Jeff Bodine and takes the position away.
And that's 5th position that he just took away from Jeff Bodine.
Now the 7 of Alan Kowicki and the 5 car of Ricky Rudd running right together on the racetrack. The last car is the 01 of Mickey Gibbs. Now let's take a look at the Big A Auto parts pit stop performance from the stops just completed. Now, you'll notice that the driver and the crew are broken down into a total. The driver statistic is the amount of time it takes him to slow down and then speed up or come into and out of the pits. The crew time is the amount of time it took the crew to do their job, change the tires and fuel the car. So you can see the best driver performance by the number 7 of Alan Kulwicki and the 42 of Kyle Petty. And as far as crews are concerned, the Alan Kulwicki crew also with the best stop. Total of 50 seconds for the 27 car of Rusty Wallace, while it only took the 42 car about 30 seconds.
But yet, Rusty Wallace came out in front. Pit position, I guess, had a great deal to do with that.
It's very important in a race like this. We're watching again from Mark Martin's car. Up ahead, immediately ahead, is Ricky Rudd, and ahead of him is Alan Kulwicki. You'll notice there was a bit of a glare on the windshield, and that's going to get worse as the race goes along.
It's not going to get worse. It's going to get impossible for these drivers to see down in turn 1. We can see there how great the picture is. Now they're going down the front straightaway. Let's just follow this if we can down in turn 1, and you'll see what we're talking about, folks. It's now about almost 1 o'clock. Look at the glare. About 4 o'clock this afternoon, impossible to see.
So that's just another challenge that'll be added to them here as the race goes on, and that's when they're getting tired and weary and all of that, and then have that extra problem to prop up. See Rudd's car bouncing a little bit there. Some of the drivers were talking that the pavement was getting a little uneven here. It's been a couple of years now since it was paved. It used to be one of the smoothest tracks on the circuit, but certainly the weather takes its toll on pavement over a period of time. Nothing serious, but it do jump up and down a little bit.
And now we see Brett Bodine in the 26 car, along with Mike Alexander. Morgan Chevron is in 15, Jimmy Spencer's in 57, and Derek Cope in number 10, followed by Harry Gant in the 33 car. So 6 cars running right together here, close enough to throw a blanket over them. There are the cars that have dropped out of the race. Jason Hayes, the 91 car, and Charlie Baker, and Mark Stahl, oh yeah, is behind the wall, but not officially out of the race. Brett Bodine's Quaker State Buick is smoking. We'll watch that situation very closely.
I'm sure NASCAR is going to be watching that very closely as well, because that did not look good at all.
Now inside Harry Gant's car, and you can see the smoke just ahead coming out of Bodine's car.
And boy, Harry Gant would love to get around it, because you never know what it might be.
Meanwhile, we have Kyle Petty, who has once again put the number 3 car a lap down. And here comes Rusty Wallace moving inside of Dale Earnhardt. Rusty is in 2nd position, and Dale gives him plenty of room.
Yeah, he gave him lots of room today, because last week at Richmond, they got in turn 1 and ran out of room.
We understand that the 26 car may be experiencing a rear-end problem. That's the reason for the smoke. He is losing positions. There goes Terry Labonte in the number 1 car around. Richard Petty in 43. That's Darrell Waltrip in 17. And Brett Bodine drops to the inside of the racetrack.
And he's getting the black flag, Bob, so he will have to be coming in before too long. And rear-end grease is one of the worst things, Benny, you can put down on a racetrack.
It's the slickest stuff in the world. And I tell you what, when you hear all those noises, and you can hear the noises when the rear end is coming apart, it's the most terrifying noise. You just know that everything's going to fly apart.
And your race is nearly over. And here comes Brett Bodine now, dropping even lower on the racetrack and putting on the brakes. You can see his pit crew standing by, but this may be a terminal problem. Dick Berggren will call a stop by Brett Bodine.
Well, this is surely not going to be a fast stop as such. Larry McReynolds has slowed the car with the signboard. He's lifting the trunk to take a look inside and see if he can figure out where that smoke is coming from. They've closed it back down again. These guys were worried all day about problems. Earlier they thought perhaps they had a clutch problem. Now they're checking under the hood to see if potentially the problem with the smoke is there. And it looks as if it might be. There is some oil on the engine. Crews now working exclusively on the engine area. Nobody's paying any attention at all to the rear end. Not a good day for Ricky Rudd. He sits in the pits. The engine is now silent. This is going to be a lengthy pit stop. He's just gone down another lap.
And Dick, you win the award for placing the driver in the wrong car. That is Brett Bodine in the 26th, not Ricky Rudd. Congratulations. And
Brett Bodine.
He finished 8th in Richmond last week and had a good run there.
Yes, he did, and he was 9th place in the Winston Cup point standings coming into this race, but this certainly will drop him back.
The bumper cam from Harry Gant's car. He just got into it with another car and lost a little bit of ground, and we'll show you what happened as he came up on Jimmy Spencer in car number 57, and a little bit of contact.
Yeah, Spencer, it looked like, tried to dip down on the inside of Morgan Shepherd in car number 15, and Harry was making his move on the inside, so they did make a little contact. Harry now running in the 13th position.
Look at this bumper cam shot. That's Terry Labonte in the Oldsmobile, and look how close they are. Richard Petty to the right, now moving back in line behind Labonte as Terry pulls right up on the back bumper of Harry Gant. Now that's Mickey Gibbs there on the inside of the racetrack. Now, by the way, the 33 car of Harry Gant that we're watching the bumper cam from is running in 13th position. They're your top 5 with 73 laps completed at Rockingham. Welcome back to The Rock, Rockingham, North Carolina Motor Speedway, and the Goodwrench 500 Winston Cup race. The leader is number 42, driven by Kyle Petty. He's led 72 of the 75 laps and running in 2nd position. Not too far behind, just a matter of car lengths. The number 27 car, Rusty Wallace, who got a little wide there in the 4th turn once again. But there's Rusty running in that 2nd position. 3rd is Alan Kowicki in car number 7. Here he comes, and you can see how close on his back bumper the number 5 yellow and white car of Ricky Rudd is. And the number 3 car, once again, is Dale Earnhardt, and he is a lap down because he made an unscheduled pit stop. The 6th car of Mark Martin running in 5th position.
And Earnhardt continues to go back, Bob. His cars, you very seldom see that car as ill handling as it is here today.
It, of course, was so strong at Daytona and also in Richmond last weekend, but they just haven't hit on the right combination here this weekend at Rockingham.
Now look at this car number 94 coming up on Dale Earnhardt. We said at the top of the show that he had to use a backup car. Now he has moved into 6th position in that Sunoco Oldsmobile car number 94. That's Sterling Marlin. So he has come from the back of the pack all the way up through there. A similar run of Ricky Rudd.
More on that, Jerry Punch in the pit area.
Interesting, the car that Sterling Marlin has here at this racetrack has not raced at Bristol, Tennessee last year. Now, on our ESPN telecast at Bristol, he was leading the race, came in for a late pit stop in this race car, and they let the lug nuts off. They had to come back down pit road, and it cost them a shot at victory. This is the car they keep special, as most of the teams do, to run only one racetrack, the demanding High Banks at Bristol. But they brought it out to run here, and the car performing flawlessly thus far today.
And then, before he crashed yesterday afternoon, you had the stopwatch on him in that final practice period, and he was the fastest car.
Yes, he was. I clocked up just about all of the cars that were out there running, and he had a pretty good margin over the rest of them. And I know they really hated to wreck that car, but this one seems to be working equally as well.
Best battle on the racetrack is right here for 3rd position. Oh, they touch coming out of the turn. Ricky Rudd gave Alan Kowicki a little bump in the back of the car, and Ricky was able to take away that 3rd spot.
Didn't take much to get him out of shape, and he just moved right on around.
Kowicki is really dropping back. It's like all of a sudden the car just went away. Look here for the lead. Rusty Wallace on the inside.
Let's see if we have a change of leader here as they come down to the stripe. Indeed, Rusty Wallace led that lap by about a car length, and he now pulls cleanly around Kyle Petty. Rusty Wallace is the leader. We'll take a look once again at that bump that occurred between Alan Kowicki and Jeff Bodine and Ricky Rudd and Jerry Punch has more on this.
Well, surprising at all that Alan Kowicki even had this race car here. The car is getting a little bit loose with him up front. This car was totally rebuilt this week. Those people who saw Richmond last week, Kowicki was leading the race when Bobby Hillin blew right in front of him going into turn 1. He backed this race car into the wall at Richmond. The car was shipped directly from the racetrack at Richmond to Mike Laughlin's race car shop in Greenville, South Carolina on Sunday night. By Monday afternoon, they had totally rebuilt the car. So as you look at the race car here, from where it says C-Rex, from the R back, the car was totally sawed in half and rebuilt. The entire right side sheet metal was replaced, and they got the car here to Rockingham just in time to qualify. So a pretty impressive run and a good week for the Z-Rex crew of Alan Kowicki.
And Alan Kowicki now continues to drop back just a little bit as we go back and catch some more action on the racetrack. That's Morgan Shepherd in the 15 car high on the racetrack. Ahead of him is Terry Labonte in the number 1 Skull car and Richard Petty in car number 43. And this is 12, 13, and 14 positions. And there is Derek Cope as we have the shot once again from Harry Gant's bumper cam. That's Derek Cope, the Daytona 500 winner, on the left of your screen. And the Phillips 66 in-car of Dick Trickle, as he is right behind Derek Cope. We'll take a lap with Dick Trickle in number 66. Just a great battle from our in-car camera between Dick Trickle and Derek Cope, and now we see Derek Cope losing another position to Michael Waltrip. We are live at Rockingham, North Carolina, and the Goodwrench 500. Laps are completed at Rockingham out of 492 that makes up the Goodwrench 500. We are live with our first Winston Cup telecast of 1990. There's the leader of the race, Rusty Wallace, in car number 27. Running in second position, just a few car lengths behind, is Kyle Petty in car number 42. He, of course, was the pole sitter for this race. The very first time in his Winston Cup career he was there. We asked him, is it nice to be starting up front in this event?
Yeah, it always feels good to start somewhere close to the front. I've never been this far up front before, so yeah, you know, I think everybody, I'm excited. And I don't usually get too excited about things, but I was real excited, real nervous yesterday when we qualified, and I think the team's really pumped up and really excited, so it was good for all of us.
Another interesting note, this completes 25 years of racing at Rockingham. The very first time, 25 years ago, that they ran here, Richard Petty was the pole sitter. As they end 25 years of competition, it is Kyle Petty that was the pole sitter for this event.
You just pull that stuff on.
I'm telling you. Here's the 94 car of Sterling Marlin now, closing in on the 7 car of Alan Kowicki, and Kowicki is having some handling problems. However, leading this group on the far left side of your screen is Ken Schrader, and he was another one of those that started at the rear of the pack and has really put on a fine performance going to the front.
Yes, he has. He has moved up to 4th place now, so he has done that rather quietly. We hadn't paid that much attention to him, but all of a sudden he's on the scoreboard, which only shows 5 positions, and he's up there in 4th.
And look at the 6 car. Mark Martin started outside pole. He's drifting back. Some guys are starting in the rear, going to the front. Guys are starting in the front, going to the rear.
In car from Mark Martin.
And for the Brett Bodine fans, he is back in the race in the Quaker State Buick. He had an extended stay in the pits. Well, as I speak, he's back into the pits once again. Dave Marcus was in a few moments ago for a couple of laps. He has an overheating problem with his car. Dave qualified in 16th position in the Big Apple Market Chevrolet, but having overheating problems here today.
Jerry Punch has a further comment on the run by Ken Schrader. Jerry?
Just before the race began, Richard Broom and the crew were having a little bit of fun with Schrader, talking about the problems they've had here. They're not laughing about it, but you have to keep your sense of humor in this business, because they destroyed the primary car they wanted to race here, as you said a week ago, and then destroyed the car they had qualified here yesterday in practice. But what they did is took yellow tape and put it across the rear bumper, telling Schrader he was indeed a rookie. They also told him one thing, said, hey, we're out of race cars. If you wreck this one today, the backup car is going to be a Hudson Hornet.
They'll have to go down to the museum in Darlington and get one of the Hudson Hornets to race.
Boy, it has been a tough year so far for Ken Schrader. He was 40th at the Daytona 500, of course. That was after he crashed in the twin 125 qualifying race and then was 10th at Richmond. Dick Goodwrench is down in the pit area where Neil Bonnet is having a problem.
Boy, he sure is, Bob. Right now the engine is silent. They just tried to refire it. It backfired through the exhaust. Putting the hood down, this is probably the end of the day for Neil Bonnet. He has won here at Rockingham on 3 separate occasions. Had high hopes for today, but they're taking the window net down, and he'll be coming out soon.
So Neil Bonnet is through for the afternoon, it would appear. He has 3 wins, as you said, here at Rockingham. He was 11th at the Daytona 500 earlier this year and 25th, dropping out of the event at Richmond last week. There's first and second position, Rusty Wallace and Kyle Petty.
Michael Waltrip, who was running in the 15th position, slowed dramatically, is coming into the pits and coming in a little bit slow right now. So he has a problem too.
Of course, he spun earlier in the event. Now, when the cars come around this time, they'll complete 100 laps. So just a little more than a fifth of the way completed on this Sunday afternoon in Rockingham. And the leader at the 100 lap mark is going to be Rusty Wallace in car number 27. A lot of racing to go on this Sunday afternoon. We're glad you could join us. We're at Rockingham, North Carolina, and we'll be back right after this. Winston Cup replays are brought to you by Purolator, the world's largest filter company. March 5th, 1989, the second race of the Winston Cup season at North Carolina Motor Speedway. Richmond was snowed out the week before. Rockingham was wet from rain, so the first 22 laps were run under caution. It was the first race of the year for the ESPN auto racing team, and we debuted our crew cam worn by Rusty Wallace's front tire changer, Jimmy Makar. The two who would battle for the Winston Cup championship all year, Wallace and Dale Earnhardt, had an encounter exiting pit road, but Rusty went on to win. Here comes Rusty Wallace. He wins the Goodwrench 500, and second place goes to Alan Kowicki by a bumper. Rusty, as pole sitter, won the Unical Challenge money and has been the only one to do that so far. And that challenge money up to $228,000 for this event. The eligible driver is Kyle Petty. In car number 42, he's running second, and they're lapping Dale Earnhardt again.
That puts him 2 laps down.
You know, Dale Earnhardt, they've changed the chassis that they normally use. They used to use a rear steer all the time. They have changed everything over to front steer. And obviously, there's something they don't know about the front steer in Rockingham.
If you were just joining us, Dale Earnhardt made an unscheduled pit stop and lost a lap, and now he has been lapped on the track, so he is 2 laps down. Here's a battle between number 6, Mark Martin, and the 7 car of Alan Kowicki, and this is for the 6th position. And again, Alan Kowicki is another one of those who needs a pit stop because the handling has gone away on that car.
It seems about 50 laps is about all they can get on the tires for them to work reasonably well, and then they really start sliding over the rest of it.
Here is Rusty Wallace. No, here is Kyle Petty trying to take the lead away from Rusty Wallace, and doing so. That is Butch Miller in car number 98. That's providing some interference, but now Rusty gets around him, and Kyle Petty goes back into the lead. But here comes Rusty back, looking to the outside in turn 3. But it looks like that Kyle Petty will indeed lead lap number 108.
Butch Miller was running in 19th position, so now there are 18 cars in the lead lap. Morgan Shepherd just in front of them. He would be the next car to go a lap down.
And here's the field rundown after 100 laps. And Kyle bobbles coming out of the second corner down the back stretch, but maintains the advantage over Rusty Wallace. He now sneaks up on the number 15 car, driven by Morgan Shepherd, and they try to put him a lap down. Rusty really pulling in now on Kyle. And in turn number 1, Kyle Petty does indeed lap the Buckmore Ford, driven by Morgan Shepherd.
So now there are 17 cars on the lead lap.
You know, and I think that Kyle Petty talked at the top of the show, he talked about learning patience. And it looks to me like he has learned some patience today, because when Rusty came up and challenged him, Bob, they remember, he just kind of backed off, let Rusty go on. When Rusty's tires went away, Kyle went back up and has passed him back. He is showing the experience, a good experienced race car driver this afternoon.
Very mature.
And again, it's a change of strategy that Gary Nelson told Jerry Punch about earlier. They want to run up front and avoid all those accidents they experienced last year. There's the number 3 car of Dale Earnhardt continuing to struggle. Here's an update with Jerry Punch.
They are having their troubles. The 3-time Winston Cup champion. Earnhardt is running into the pits. I think I had something broken on the car, something in the chassis. So the car cannot even touch the throttle of the car at all. He tries to push the gas pedal down. The car just jerks sideways on the racetrack.
the car feels like it has absolutely no bite or no wedge in it at all. When they made their last pit stop, the left rear tire was worn completely out, and that shouldn't happen in 50 laps here at Rockingham. A lot of drivers, many cars, are saying the cars are like they're so loose like they have no wedge in them at all. What can that be?
You know, it sounds like that Darrell Waltrip's crew was hit on it just a moment ago, that they have too much wedge, and that left rear has too much weight on it. The right rear doesn't have any weight and just sitting there spinning.
Or it could be, Richard Childers said when they did an interview with them earlier that they had changed gears this morning in the car. It could be that the interlock system is not working correctly.
That's the ratchet system in the gearing.
So do you have to set a car up completely different when you run the radials as opposed to the bias plies?
I don't think you do. No, I don't think you have to change the car drastically from one to the other. I think the feel is basically the difference in the feel that the driver feels in the seat of his pants and how they react, how they set the car up. But I just think that Earnhardt, he may have a locker going bad. There may be some things he don't know about the front steer car yet.
Rusty Wallace now running in second position. And of course, he has an excellent chassis man in Jimmy Makar, who was wearing our crew cam for this afternoon. We asked him, since the chassis setup is more important with the radials, is it nice to have a guy, and is there an advantage with a chassis man like Jimmy?
I do. I think Jimmy Makar's my secret weapon, basically. The whole team is my secret weapon. I'm not singling any person out. That's one thing about this team. There's no egos, and every time I start looking at one guy more than another, that's not right.
Rusty Wallace, of course, began his win streak here at the Rock last year, winning this race, going on to win the Winston Cup Championship, edging out Dale Earnhardt. But it's interesting to note that Dale had a better average finishing position than Rusty last year. And we've also talked throughout the season last year, and we'll do it again this year, about how important Winston Cup points are. And those points that Mark Martin had taken away at Richmond last week certainly may play a factor in the outcome of his total season come next November.
You know, we're watching the leaders. There's Kyle Petty in 42, Rusty Wallace in 27. But you know what? That 5 car again, Ricky Rudd is creeping back into the picture. We can't see him now, but folks, believe me when I tell you, he just isn't that far away. See the green car? That's Brett Bodine. There comes Ricky Rudd.
And Dick Berggren can comment on this run.
And while a lot of people have been complaining about their chassis, Waddell Wilson says his is just about where they'd like to have it. The only problem they're really having with the car is just creeping up the racetrack a little bit on the banks. And we saw that problem at Daytona, and it certainly didn't bother Ricky Rudd there. He turned in a fine performance, even though he was unable to hold the car on the bottom. However, if they have a liability today, it is their pit road assignment. They are all the way at the far end of pit road, at the exact opposite end from Kyle Petty and from the fastest cars. That, generally speaking, is considered to be a disadvantage. It makes it hard to stay with the leaders on pit stop. They did it on the first one. We'll see what happens in the next round.
Let me explain to you why it's such a big disadvantage to pit near the 4th corner, as Ricky Rudd is doing. When you come into the pits, when you get on pit road, Dale Earnhardt, Kyle Petty, those fellas that's pitting down turn 1, can run as fast as they want to down the pit straight. But once they get through their pits, they have to go out and stay very slow and stay on the bottom of the corner down in turn 1. Well, they're not going very fast when they take off anyway. Ricky Rudd has to take off, go down pit road. When he gets to turn 1, stop to go around the corner.
Plus dodging cars pulling out in front of him as he comes down pit road.
And pitted just about the middle of the straightaway is Derek Cope at number 10, and there he pulls out.
Now watch him when he goes. Now, he has to stay on the bottom of the race. There's a hump. See the bad hump? He had to back off of that. Now he can go about a half throttle around the corner.
He lost 2 laps on that pit stop, so the Daytona 500 winner, who was running in 19th position, makes a pit stop under green and loses 2 laps. There's the battle for the lead, and it is a good one. And look at Richard and Kyle running side by side on the racetrack as Kyle fights to maintain the lead. Rusty Wallace challenging in the number 27 car, but Kyle maintaining the advantage. But here comes Ricky Rudd in 3rd position. A great battle going on here at Rockingham. We'll be back with more of our live coverage of the GM Goodwrench 500 after this. We are at The Rock, North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham. ESPN Speed World for the first time in 1990 Winston Cup racing. The Goodwrench 500. Here are the top 15. Ricky Rudd now has taken the lead from Kyle Petty. Rusty Wallace is third, followed by Ken Schrader and Sterling Marlin. In sixth position is Mark Martin, then Alan Kowicki, Bill Elliott, Jimmy Spencer, and Dick Trickle. 11 through 15, Jeff Bodine, Harry Gant, Darrell Waltrip, Bill Parsons, and Butch Miller. 126 of 492 laps completed, and this is how Ricky Rudd passed Kyle Petty and took the lead.
He did it the hard way. He ran them down and passed on the outside.
This move brought around with ease up there. Kyle didn't fight him too much, but Ricky's car working up there on the outside.
We showed you the top 15. 13 of those are running in the lead lap now, and Rudd has become our third leader of the afternoon. The other two, of course, Kyle Petty and Rusty Wallace.
We see the red and white car, 10 car of Jerry Cope go by. Ned mentioned just a moment ago he made a pit stop, and that shows you what the new tires does to the car, how much better that the car adheres to the racetrack. He's able to pass the leaders and drive away.
Now they're putting a lap on Darrell Waltrip and the Tide Chevrolet.
Rusty Wallace, meanwhile, has really lost the handle on the car. There he is. He has dropped considerably back from the front two.
Another one that lost the handle was car number 4. Here's Earnhardt coming down pit road again, but we saw the car number 4, Phil Parsons, getting loose. He's lost the handle on that car as well. Let's go to Jerry Punch in the pits.
Goodwrench crew going to work on the right side of the car. Earnhardt has to feel pretty helpless out here. The car not handling like he would like it to, not running up the par, but they will change right side tires. This would be a scheduled pit stop for the Goodwrench crew. Right side tires are on. They will come around to the left side of the car and jack the left side up. They're not going to take any chances. Remember, we told you earlier that left rear tire was completely worn out when they made their last pit stop after only 50 laps. 22 seconds and the clock is counting. 24.7 seconds. They are down and away with a 4-tire stop.
And we see Phil Parsons also making a pit stop, so it is time for regularly scheduled stops. We should be seeing Kyle Petty come in the next few laps. He is running in second spot, the lead maintained by Ricky Rudd at the moment.
And not only are their tires hot and worn, but also as Ricky Rudd tries to move around the car number 75 of Rick Wilson, but the gasoline, the weight gone out of the rear of the car. They're getting low on gas, and that'll help to make the car looser as well.
We'll see if Kyle Petty comes into the pits this time. We believe this is his lap to do so. Yes, he does. He drops off the 24 degrees of banking, and Kyle Petty comes in for the pit stop. Here's Jerry Punch to call the action.
The pole-sitting car is Kyle Petty now coming down pit road, as is Rusty Wallace. The second and third place cars both pitting at the same time here at the far end of pit road. Rusty Wallace there, they will work on the right side of his car. Likewise with Kyle Petty's feet and three Pontiac. A pair of Pontiacs pitting together here towards turn 1 on pit road. They are moving around to the left side of the Kyle Petty machine. They have already changed right side tires. Now Barry Dotson of the Miller crew step around the left side of the Rusty Wallace car. They have the left tires already on the big car of Kyle Petty, getting the last up a few in Petty's car. As is Rusty Wallace, great pit road here at the end of pit road.
Watch the blend line now. They have to stay below the white line there until they reach the backstretch, and both are going to do so. Kyle Petty winning the race out of the pits.
Now maybe you can understand what I was trying to explain a moment ago about just what an advantage it is pitting down near that end rather than the opposite end of pit road.
Now Ricky Rudd is going to have to make a pit stop here before long, and he is pitting on the opposite end, and so that'll be, as you said, Benny, a disadvantage for him. The car number 25 is in the pits, Ken Schrader, who was running up in the top 5 for a while. In fact, he was running in second place when he came in, and here comes the leader.
Ricky Rudd is coming into the pits. Dick Berggren is in his pit just off of corner 4. Dick?
Well, one advantage they had, Bob, was they had the opportunity to watch what the other leaders had done. And Waddell Wilson, before he brought his man in, took a good long look down pit road and watched what they did. He saw 4 tire changes. That's exactly what they're going to do. 4 fresh Goodyear radials going on Ricky Rudd's car. The crew has the windshield light. The fuel is in as soon as the last tire is bolted up. Gone, and he is gone. It's 21.6. Good stop for Rudd.
Very good stop.
That's a terrific pit stop for 4 tires.
Now Harry Gant is in with service on that car, the Skull Bandit, car number 33. The windshield being washed, the tires being changed on the right side of the car, the fuel going in the left side in the rear. Now the crew changes over and begins to take off the left side tires.
Sterling Marlin has taken the lead in this race. He hasn't made a pit stop yet, but he's in the lead.
And look at the fuel car as he moves away. That shot, of course, from the bumper cam.
That comes out the vent of the gas tank that's positioned back where the tail light would be on a normal car.
Mark Martin comes in. Jerry Punch is in his pit.
A winner from a week ago brings the Folgers forward down pit road. Robin Pemberton and Steve Mills, Jack Rouse's crew will go to work on that car. They will likewise change 4 tires, cleaning the windshield now, getting the right front tire. A little bit of problem with the right front air hose. Now Pemberton gets the hose uncurled and gets the tire on the right front. They scamper around to the left side of the car, trying to get the jack beneath the car. Second can of fuel going in. Leader, car number 94, Sterling Marlin makes his way to pit road as Mark Martin's crew finishes his pit work. Now he's refired. He is down and away.
Martin shifts up through the gears and pulls back onto the racetrack as the 94 car continues to sit on pit road. Dick Bergman right there.
Well, same strategy, 4-tire change, but these guys are going to be going with scuffed tires. They also had the opportunity of watching everybody, and look at how much more time they were able to stay on the racetrack. That could prove very valuable later if this thing turns out to be an economy road. Marlin back on the speedway.
And Bill Elliott, who was the leader, now comes in for his scheduled pit stop. They go to work on the Coors Melling Ford.
I'm sure they'll change 4 tires on it, just like on everyone else.
Jerry Punch, you in a position to see this?
Yes, Mike Beam and the Coors crew now working on change right side tires. They will also come around. Dan Elliott pulls the left front tire off. They have put both cans of fuel, the second can of fuel rather, going in now, as they have changed all 4 tires on Elliott's car. He is down and away.
And Dick Trickle had taken over the lead, and here he comes into the pits for his pit stop and pumps the brakes.
He almost overshot it, really had to stand on the brakes and smoke the tires, but he gets into his assigned pit area. Dick Bergman is also there.
And he's going to also take 4 tires. Everybody's doing 4 tires. Now, this is a bit unusual in a way. Very often we don't see a 4-tire stop under green flag conditions. But the leaders set the pace, and everybody is going to do a monkey see, monkey do, and do just what the leaders do. After all, what they are doing is putting them up in the front, and that is the point of this thing. Dick Trickle now, 4 tires on his car, 2 cans of fuel, and he is gone.
Trickle accelerating out of the pit area. This is how he came in, and watch him stand on the brakes, smoke the tires, and almost slide by his pit.
I don't think he realized which pit he was supposed to be in. He was heading on down pit road and he said, hey, over here's my pits. I better turn in there.
Terry Labonte has pitted on the back side of the racetrack for his scheduled stop in the Skoll Classic Oldsmobile.
And he had just taken the lead, Bob. So we've had a lot of different leaders here during this exchange of pit stops, as some stayed out there a little bit longer. Jeff Bodine coming down pit road, and the Junior Johnson Budweiser Ford, and I guess he had taken over the lead momentarily.
Yep, when Terry came in, Jeff took over the lead. Jerry Punch will report.
So the Budweiser crew going to work on Jeff Bodine's car. Tim Brewer now puts the lugs on the right side. Pete Wright runs around the left side of the car, slides that big red jack beneath the car and begins to pump. The car comes off the ground. Left side tires now. Mike Hill in the left rear. Tim Brewer in the left front. Down off the jack, great pit stop. He is down and away.
And with all of the cars that were on the lead lap now having made their pit stop, the lead goes back to Kyle Petty in car number 42. There he is.
They had a great pit stop. And, you know, Ricky Rudd was the leader when all these pit stops started, and Kyle Petty has about a half straightaway, and that's about the advantage that he would gain by pitting down near turn 1.
So everything was pretty much equal during those pit stops. Kyle Petty now on lap number 145 has the lead by about a full straightaway. We'll be back with more of our live coverage as we watch Jimmy Makar in action during that pit stop. Welcome back to the Goodwrench 500 Winston Cup race, the 3rd event of the 1990 Winston Cup schedule. We are live where Kyle Petty, the pole sitter of this race, is the leader after 150 of 492 laps. Running in second position at the moment is Ricky Rudd, followed by Rusty Wallace, then Ken Schrader and Mark Martin.
And Ned, is this impressive or what? Kyle Petty stays on the bottom of the racetrack, runs around the track like he's tied to a string, like there's no problem. The rest of these guys slipping and sliding all over the track. Gary and Kyle evidently have done their homework for this race.
They certainly have. The car is working beautifully, and Kyle is doing a great job of driving it. That's the way you want it. If you're a race driver, you say, boy, I just wish I had a car that stayed anywhere on the racetrack I want to put it and pull away from everybody else.
And folks, this kid, Kyle, I say kid, man, wants to win this race because, you know, he's been trying to do this for 8 or 9 years, and I think people think that he's just doing it as a lark. But he is very, very serious now about his racing. He's nothing in the world that would make everyone realize that if he could just go in the victory lane at Rockingham. 500 laps at the run is as tough as you can do about any place. You got to concentrate every inch of the way.
You do have to maintain your concentration for 4.5 hours or more. And that's exactly what Ricky Rudd is doing right now. We ask him, how do you maintain that concentration for such a long time?
Well, there's always things that you know, on each restart, you know, you're racing. It's not like you're out there riding. If you were riding, then maybe it'd be hard to keep your concentration, but it's a 4.5, 5 hour long race, and you race every minute of it. Sometimes you might not race as hard, but you still got goals. You've got somebody you want to try to catch. You've got such and such of a distance you want to maintain over the guys behind you. It's always something going on. There's always something to occupy your time with. It's not like you're just sitting out there driving the interstate highways. There are things that go on in your mind. I like to have, like Waddell Wilson, I'll have him call my times off to me, my lap time. And I'll sort of hunt and seek a different groove every now and then and see how it stacks up on the watch. Just make a little game out of it, anything to keep your concentration up.
That's Ricky Rudd and how he maintains concentration for such a long period of time. Rudd goes into this race second in Winston Cup points in 1990. 2 excellent performances so far this year. He was 4th in the Daytona 500 and 3rd last weekend at Richmond. Currently running in 2nd position to this man, Kyle Petty.
And if the race should end right now, he would be leading the Winston Cup point standings, Bob, because Dale Earnhardt, who went into this race leading, is far back in the field.
Let's take a look once again at our Big A Auto Parts pit performance from the most recent series of pit stops. And there you can see that as far as the driver is concerned, in and out of the pits, the number 5 car of Rudd and the 94 of Marlin led the way. And as far as the crew work is concerned, Jimmy Makar and Barry Dotson and the others on Rusty Wallace's crew had the best time at 19.5 seconds, giving Rusty the best total time in the pits, 36 seconds, as opposed to 41.6 for both Kyle Petty and for Sterling Marlin.
And we saw that. He almost beat Kyle Petty out of the pits, and he had dropped back about 3 or 4 seconds behind Kyle before they came in for that pit stop.
That's exactly right. The crew's very, very important in Winston Cup racing. Be able to change those tires, put in that fuel quicker than the other guy, it makes a difference in winning and losing.
Right now, Bob, there are 8 cars on the lead lap. Kyle Petty, of course, leading. Ricky Rudd second. Rusty Wallace third. 25 car of Ken Schrader is 4th. Mark Martin is 5th. Sterling Marlin 6th. Alan Kwick is 7th. And Bill Elliott is 8th. Only 8 cars on the lead lap.
And there is Kyle Petty putting another lap on Hut Strickland in substitute for Davey Allison. We'll be right back with more from Rockingham. This Track Fact is brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil.
Let's give you a little peek at a Winston Cup car before it has its makeup on. That's before it's all painted and bondoed up and pretty for the race day. Take a look at the front of these cars. Now this nose piece made of Kevlar, a synthetic material developed by NASA for the space industry. It's very light, weighs only about 8 pounds, but extremely strong. You can beat and bang all you want to and it isn't going to break. The predominant body of the car is sheet metal or steel, 24 gauge steel. It's extremely thin, almost paper thin, but very, very strong. Now these cars, as you see, are cut and pieced together, piece by piece, much like a plastic surgeon would nip and tuck, pulling pieces together to tighten up the small areas. This car welded here in segment by segment, being rebuilt. Now this is Tia, the car named after Barry Dotson's daughter, the car that was wrecked last year at Phoenix on ESPN. Its first appearance this year will be at North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham.
Another one of the differences between your car and Winston Cup cars. Top 5, Kyle Petty, Ricky Rudd, Rusty Wallace, Ken Schrader, and Mark Martin with 163 laps completed. And here is how the car looks when it's all painted and prettied up. The 27 car driven by Rusty Wallace, currently in 3rd position.
And Rusty Wallace is having his problems. He's off the pace right now. Harry Gant goes inside Michael Walker. He's closing in on the back of Rusty Wallace. Kyle Petty, Michael comes back on the outside, but Kyle and Ricky Rudd have been able to drive away from Rusty.
Harry Gant currently running in the 9th position. He is 1 lap down.
Petty continuing to lead this race.
But Ricky Rudd is pulling in on Bob. He was about 4.5 seconds behind. He now has closed it down to about 2 4/10 seconds.
Once again, we have Kyle and Richard running very close together on the racetrack. Here comes the second place car, Ricky Rudd. So indeed, Rudd is beginning to reel in the leader of the race. Here comes Kyle out of the fourth corner, through the trioval here in Rockingham and into turn number 1 again. Of course, Kyle is looking for his 3rd Winston Cup win. Won at Richmond, and he also won the World 600 at Charlotte last May. Here's Rudd in the number 5 Levi Garrett Chevrolet running in second spot, passing Richard Petty in car number 43. Now getting to the outside of the 70 car, driven by J.D. McDuffie. Closing in on Mickey Gibbs. Now we drop back to show you the interval between the 2nd and 3rd place cars, and here comes Rusty Wallace on the outside of Harry Gant and Michael Waltrip behind.
And caution is on the track.
Don't see any car in trouble. It could be for a piece of debris on the racetrack. In any case, the yellow does come out for the 4th time this afternoon. We had 3 spins early in the event, and we've now run a long green period before this caution flag comes out. It comes out on lap number 168.
I figure Rusty Wallace is about the luckiest bunch in this situation because they needed a caution flag.
The green flag is waving at the end of pit road, indicating that the pit is open, and so Kyle Petty and Ricky Rudd and just about everybody else coming in for a pit stop, including Rusty Wallace. And let's go to Dick Berggren in Rudd's pit.
Well, Bob Jenkins, no looking up pit road this time. They didn't have an opportunity. There's another loose tire from Rudd's car rolling around on pit road. They're going to do a 4-tire change, as is everybody up and down pit road. Rudd just calmly taking a drink there. Waddell Wilson, the crew chief, looking it all over. They're just about done. Herman now is just, oh, he almost rolled that tire in front, but changed his mind, and that was a good idea to change his mind.
Here comes Rudd accelerating down pit lane as Rusty Wallace gets down off the jacks and goes back out onto the racetrack also.
But Kyle Petty beat both of them out.
Boy, a lot of traffic jam coming out of the pits as several cars try to move into a very narrow space and the exit of pit road. While we have an opportunity under caution, we'll take another break. We'll be right back. Still under caution at Rockingham. The track crews are over in turn number 3 on the inside of the racetrack, putting down some oil dry. That's the reason for the caution. No spin, nothing like that, just some debris and a check for oil over in that area of the track. Now, Jimmy Makar wearing our crew cam as he did a year ago at this time when we debuted it, and this is how Rusty's last pit stop looked from his vantage point.
Almost gets a little dark in that corner, doesn't it? Of course, the lug nuts had already been loosened by another man on the left front or on the left side, so he had to put the tire on. Did it very quickly.
Never ceases to amaze me how those guys perform so well and so quickly. There is Dale Earnhardt pulling back out onto the racetrack. Now, a story that we told you about early in the event, Davey Allison with a fainting spell yesterday, or rather Friday, preventing him from competing here in the race. Jerry Punch with him on pit road. Jerry?
Davey standing here talking to Bud Strickland in the car. Davey, what is your schedule as far as being able to get back in the race car?
Well, we talked to Dr. Putman over at Charlotte Memorial, and what he told me was that everything was good this weekend, but they just wanted to be safe and make sure that it didn't happen again. We're going to Atlanta on Wednesday and test with our Atlanta car. We're going to be there Wednesday and Thursday. He told me to call him Wednesday night, let him know how I felt and how things went. He said he'd probably clear it from there.
What have you been saying to Hud Strickland watching your race car run this race?
Well, you know, this is kind of an unusual position for me during a Winston Cup race, but Hud's doing a super job out there. We kind of fouled him up a little bit on our pit strategy that last time, but, you know, we're back 2 laps down again. He did a super job making the first one up, but we've handicapped him a little bit, but we're gonna keep working with him. He's doing a good job. We're gonna try to get some more laps back, get back in this race.
Davey Allison coming back from a possible injury early in the week. We are under yellow here at the Goodwrench 500 at North Carolina Motor Speedway. Kyle Petty showing the way as he has since the green flag was dropped. We'll be back.
Beginning beginning a new decade of Winston Cup coverage here on ESPN. We are live at North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham for the GM Goodwrench 500. Our Speed World coverage is being brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Goodyear Eagle Radials, the best-selling performance radials in the world. And by John Deere, nothing runs like a Deere. The green is back out at Rockingham, and the race is resuming. Now the number 11 car leading the field down through turn number 3 is Jeff Bodine, and he is the last car on the lead lap. He's at the tail end of the lead lap in 9th position. Kyle Petty going to the inside of him, now trying to put him a lap down, and he does.
Bob, the guys down in the pits told me that John Wilson had some terrific horsepower in that 42 car. I believe him.
Yeah.
Did you see that? He just pulled up and went.
But here comes Rudd in the number 5 yellow and white car. He is second, and not too far behind is Rusty Wallace. In the black number 27, he is in 3rd position. And now Ricky Rudd will look inside of Jeff Bodine going into turn number 1, but falling back in line.
Running 4th after that round of pit stops during the caution is Kenny Schrader, and Sterling Marlin running 5th.
Wallace sneaking up on Rudd as Rudd now looks to the high side of Jeff Bodine coming out of the 4th turn. And they split the difference. They're 3 abreast at the line with Deere on the outside and Wallace on the inside. They make it, but come through there side by side, and Rusty Wallace moves into 2nd spot.
Jeff Bodine said, I don't want to be the meat of this sandwich, so he backed out of it. Good, smart move.
So now Rusty Wallace will chase down the leader, Kyle Petty, as Ricky Rudd will fall to 3rd spot. Dale Earnhardt, meanwhile, continues to struggle. He is in 25th position and 3 laps down. It's an amazing story. Last week, they brought the car to Rick Richmond. They wrecked it and started the race in a totally unfamiliar car. He did quite well. And now this week, they have a problem with the car after it qualified very, very well. Let's get more on the situation and what might be the problem with Dale Earnhardt from Jerry Punch.
We won't be quite as graphic as Dale is in the radio, but apparently the car is not handling real well. The car, of course, 3 laps down, and they have literally looked at everything. This last caution flag, they made 2 pit stops, and you see Richard Childerson, he has been scratching his head, and that's the entire Goodwrench crew. They checked the ratchet in the rear of the car. They checked the shock absorbers, thinking maybe they had a shock broken. They checked the coil spring, see something was broken there. They looked at the trailing arms, the suspension of the car. They just cannot figure it out. Dale said they cannot even touch the throttle of the car until the car is completely straight on the straightaway. If he touches it in the corner of the car, will just simply jerk around to the right side and spin out. They are totally mystified still here in the Earnhardt pit.
I'll tell you, that's a highly unusual situation for that crew. You just very, very seldom see it, but you just never know in the sport.
Battle for 2nd position now between Wallace and Rudd. Rudd going inside of Rusty again in corner number 2. Coming down the backstretch, Brett Bodine is on the inside as Rudd and Wallace race side by side to turn number 3. Close racing there with Rusty gaining a car length advantage in the corner. Now coming out of it, Rudd comes fighting back on the inside, and as they cross the stripe, they're side by side in a virtual dead heat. Now Rudd pulling ahead by a half a car length into turn number 1. Great race for 2nd spot.
Rusty hanging pretty well up there on the outside. Of course, he gets a little better run over the turn. He doesn't lose as many RPMs in the turns running up high, so he was able to hold on to the position.
And lurking back in 4th position is the white number 25 car of Ken Schrader.
You know, that's unbelievable because that's Schrader's 3rd choice. We've talked a lot about it, but he crashed his primary car. He brought another one down, qualified it pretty well, crashed it, and this is just a race car. But it's doing pretty well.
It sure is. Again, the number 11 car of Jeff Bodine is a lapped car and running in 9th position.
Rudd's car right now is not working quite as well as it.
Well, we got another one of those deals. 3 abreast.
I believe Schrader will back out this time.
Why'd you get up off your seat and draw breath?
I want to see the rat.
But you got a bunch of pros there. You know,
yeah, you sure do. Schrader now closing in on Ricky Rudd for the third spot. And that's Morgan Shepherd in car number 15, who's another lap car. He's 2 laps down, as a matter of fact, shown in 16th.
And there's Sterling Marlin right behind Morgan Shepherd.
And he is on the lead lap.
And Mark Martin, the Moses Ford, behind him. So this battle for third and fourth is looking pretty good.
Mark Martin running in the 6th position. In 7th is Alan Kowicki, and Bill Elliott is 8th. 8 cars in the lead lap at this point.
Ken Schrader came to Rockingham a couple of weeks ago to test, and it didn't go well, to say the least. He had a crash while testing here at Rockingham. Was the testing accident the hardest crash that you've ever experienced in your Winston Cup career, Ken?
I did a lot of different stuff in a lot of different type race cars, but I would say it was for sure the hardest hit I've ever taken. We probably run about 160, 165 mile an hour when you drop down in turns, and I just dropped down into 3, and I don't know what happened still, but the next thing I know, we were headed right up the bank, and we just hit her a ton.
Perhaps one of the most versatile race drivers in the United States today. Still runs the open wheel cars when he can, but certainly a star in the Winston Cup division. Let's go down to Dick Berggren, who has more on Ken Schrader.
Well, that car is a little bit more than just another car, although Benny Parsons, they told me the same thing. Just another car. That is the automobile that last year won the Busch Clash at Daytona. They put it in the truck, they towed it around. The only time they unloaded it all last year was at Martinsville. Since then, it's mostly been resting. Incidentally, if you look carefully, there's a yellow stripe on the back bumper of that automobile, put there by some crew members in jest. Schrader has been through 3 automobiles so far in 1990.
Well, Dick Berggren, you was able to straighten me out on the race car, but I tell you one thing, folks, you've seen my head. I ain't got much hair, but at least I got more than Dick Berggren.
Ken Schrader, car number 25, currently shown in 4th position. There is the leader, the Peak Pontiac, driven by Kyle Petty. He was the pole sitter. Can he hold on for the win and take home the Unocal Challenge money of $228,000? We'll know in a couple of hours. The globe to bring you the best racing coverage on television. Formula One, Indy Cars Today, Winston Cup from Rockingham, North Carolina, ESPN Speed World in its live coverage debut in 1990. Again, a reminder that you can register to win a Pontiac Grand Prix SE by dialing 1-900-246-0101. Call costs 95 cents. You can register to win, and then if you're selected and called and you know the driver who leads at the halfway point of this event, you will win a race car. And that halfway challenge is coming up in just about 50 more laps. We didn't want to steal any lines from our colleagues at ABC with the Spanning the Globe, but we do.
Whatever it takes, right?
Absolutely. Kyle Petty leading the Goodwrench 500 here at Rockingham. We'll show you the rundown of the field after 190 laps. Wallace second, and Ricky Rudd in 3rd position. We have, at the moment, 8 cars on the lead lap. After 8, we'll begin to get into cars that are at least 1 lap down.
There are 7 cars that are 1 lap down through 15th place. Harry Gant, the last car in that particular pack. And then there are 6 cars that are 2 laps down from 16th through 21st. These cars we're seeing right there now, the drivers are 2 laps down, and then 3 laps down are cars 22nd on back.
All right, we've talked about how strong the engine is in this car that's leading the race. Let's talk to the engine builder with Jerry Punch.
Well, indeed, John Wilson here in the Satco pits has to get a lot of credit for the way Kyle Petty is running today. And, John, you guys have obviously found a lot over last year. What's been the big difference in the engine program from last year to this year?
Well, we're in our own shop now. We've got our own dynos. We've done a lot of testing over the winter. Working with our cylinder head company, and they come up with a few things for us. We've added some more people to the engine shop, so we picked up some more knowledge that we didn't have before.
John Wilson is a man. Literally, you can eat off the floor in his engine room. They have been working all winter long to get this car running like it is today. A very, very hard-working young man, John Wilson, to build the engine for Kyle Petty. With more on Kyle Petty, let's go up to my colleague, Dick Berggren.
Well, Jerry, one of the things to bear in mind about this team is that it is very young. It is, in fact, so young that John Wilson just got his own dyno over the course of this winter. And previously, he was using Hendrick dynos. And, well, you don't want to show everything you've got to show when there are a couple of other teams that are sort of sharing the same facility. So now they've got their own stuff, and it's really producing here this afternoon. It's producing so well, it could score for Kyle Petty by far the biggest victory of his career. Car owner Felix Sabates has got his calculator out, and this morning he calculated that a win today would be worth $714,000. They've got the prize money from the race. They've got the Unical bonus. They've got a $50,000 performance award from Peak Antifreeze. They've got money from the Winston, money from the Busch Clash, almost $750,000 if they win this thing.
Wow, I guess they would put them on the winner's circle plan as well.
Oh, yes, they're open on the winner's circle program.
Oh, he has a lot going for him in this afternoon.
You better not tell him.
Now, we saw just a few minutes ago the change of position for second as Ricky Rudd in the Levi Garrett Chevrolet took second, and he has really pulled away now from Rusty Wallace, who held down second for several laps.
I believe Rudd's car is a little tight, and after they change tires for a little while, it don't go too well, and then after the tires gets heated up a little bit, that's when he takes off.
And we also see now Ken Schrader has clear sailing between himself and Rusty Wallace as Ken runs fourth.
I think Rusty Wallace's car is just about perfect on 4 good tires, but then as the tires get hot, he gets too loose.
And in fifth and sixth position, Sterling Marlin and Mark Martin. Let's go back down to Dick Berggren.
Well, one of the things I like about Ned Jarrett is he is a very sophisticated race watcher. And Ned, you're absolutely right. When they put brand new tires on this car, it doesn't run all that well. It's a little bit too tight. Once the tires have run a few laps, on the other hand, this car just absolutely flies. A few minutes ago, Waddell Wilson told me, he said, I wish we didn't have any more yellow flags for the rest of the day. This thing runs better after we get some miles on it.
Thank you, Dick. Good battle here between Ken Schrader running fourth and Sterling Marlin in the fifth place, and of course Mark Martin running sixth in car number 6.
And the in-car camera shows us Sterling Marlin on the left and Ken Schrader on the right. Marlin now closing in at the line. He almost is alongside of Ken Schrader, but Schrader leads the trio into the first and second turns, however sliding high on the racetrack, and there goes Sterling to fourth.
That's all he needed was one little opening, and he took advantage of it. Both of those cars, backup cars, as we said, here comes Mark Martin. Now he wants to make a move.
And we'll watch it from the in-car camera as he tries to pull alongside of Ken Schrader in the third turn.
Martin goes to the inside, takes the position away.
Just like Sterling did on the previous lap, used the inside line to gain the spot from Ken Schrader, who has lost 2 spots here in the last 2 laps.
And those cars are running about a third of a lap behind Kyle Petty, who is leading this race.
With 100, rather make that 209 laps completed. So we are nearing the halfway challenge, 246th lap. At that time, the driver leading at that point will win $10,000 in the right guard halfway challenge. Back in a moment. Welcome back to North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham, where the Goodwrench 500 is well underway. In fact, nearing the halfway point with the pole sitter Kyle Petty leading the event. And running in second position, Ricky Rudd. Third is Rusty Wallace. Fourth, Sterling Marlin. And fifth is Mark Martin. Now, get ready to watch for your favorite driver on the racetrack. Beware of the color of his car, because we're going to stop our camera as Kyle Petty comes into turn number 1. We're also going to start the clock. Watch for your favorite driver. You can see where he is in relation to the leader of the race, and of course also see exactly how many seconds he is behind the leader. So we stop the camera right now as the field comes through. There, for instance, you can see Rusty's about 5.5 seconds behind. There's Ken Schrader. Jimmy Means. Those of you who are Jimmy Means fans know exactly where he is in relation to the leader.
Darrell Walker going by in the Tide Machine. Dale Earnhardt, Barry Gant, Bill Parsons.
There's Rick Wilson, Michael Waltrip. And there is Kyle Petty once again. So there you can see how the field is running in relation to the leader, and the leader passing his daddy.
And he just put his dad 3 laps down. Richard is running in 21st position at the moment.
You know, we talked about the fact that this is going to be worth about $750,000 for Kyle Petty if he should pull off the victory here today and win all the bonus money plus the purse money. Felix Sabates, the owner of the car that he drives, had offered him a Rolls Royce if he could win a race. Well, Kyle got, I guess, tired of waiting, so he bought the car this past weekend?
Yeah, he offered it before they went to Daytona. If he could sit on the pole or the outside at Daytona or win a 125-mile qualifying race or the Daytona 500, he would give him the Rolls Royce. And to entice him a little bit, he gave him the keys to it. Let him drive it to Daytona, drive it around down there. Well, of course, he didn't do either of those things to win it down there. But this week, the day before they came to Rockingham, he went to the dealer and bought the Rolls Royce.
He may have done it 1 week too early. Well, Ken Schrader, who is currently running in the 6th position now, beginning to drop back just a little in that Kodiak Chevrolet, is experiencing some brake problems. Jerry, what's the situation with Ken?
Let's check in with Richard Bloom, the crew chief. Richard, the car is slowing a little bit. What's the problem?
Well, we got a brake problem. I told him just kind of back off, try to save it towards the end.
You've got to be pleased. This is your 3rd choice of race car to run here, but the car's running awfully well.
Well, it's an old backup car, but it's not running too bad today.
Richard Bloom trying to get his driver to hang on here. The brakes are going away lap by lap for Kenny Schrader.
And something is going away on the Rusty Wallace car because he has lost a position to Sterling Marlin. You can see the car drifting way high on the racetrack. And here comes Mark Martin to take over the position. So Rusty loses 2 spots and a half a lap.
Moves from 3rd back to 5th.
Rusty Wallace.
And, you know, this is back on the inside. You know, Rusty Wallace, he has Barry Dodson, Jimmy Mayfair, those guys in the pits. If anybody can figure it out and make that great pit stop to get Rusty back in contention, those fellas can. You know that right now Rusty's on the radio telling Barry, telling those guys what the car is doing, what they need to change the next time they make a pit stop to make the car better.
Just because he's dropping back here is no sign how that car is going to be corrected and perform late in the race, that's for sure.
There's no one, no team probably that does that any better than Rusty in his career.
222 laps completed. We're 24 laps away from the halfway challenge and $10,000 to the leader. This is from Mark Martin's car looking out the back glass to Rusty Wallace. Well, we hope you're enjoying our live coverage of the Goodwrench 500. Kyle Petty leads Ricky Rudd. The Goodwrench 500 at Rockingham, North Carolina. North Carolina Motor Speedway being led by the number 42 Pete Pontiac, driven by Kyle Petty. As he passes the 75 car, driven by Rick Wilson, and puts Rick another lap down.
And see the car in front of him? That's Michael Waltrip. Those 3 guys there are probably the best buddies in Winston Cup racing. Rick Wilson, Kyle, and Michael Waltrip. As a matter of fact, Steve Wade, an editor of one of the racing publications, calls Michael and Kyle Garfield and Odie.
Let's go back and look at a battle for 10th position. The number 66 car of Dick Trickle currently holding down the 10th spot. And in 11th is the 57 car of Jimmy Spencer. And Spencer has done quite well despite the fact that he spun earlier in the race. And this is from the Dick Trickle in-car camera looking back on Jimmy.
He just took that position about 3 laps ago, moving on the inside of Spencer. So they've run pretty close together all day.
Those 2 cars, both those cars were very, very impressive in Daytona during Speed Weeks. Both of them took a turn at leading the 125-mile qualifying race.
The 3rd car in line there is Alan Kulwicki, and he is on the lead lap, running in 8th position. Let's take another lap with Dick Trickle. Phillips 66 in-car camera.
Gauges up in the instrument panel. Really can't tell. It's dark. I can't tell what they're showing if anything is abnormal.
back and forth. Must be the fuel pressure gauge. That's all that he has to go by, just what the gauges he has in front of him. Has no speedometer, has a tachometer to tell how many revolutions per minute that his engine is turning, but no speedometer to tell him how fast he's going. And at that point right there, he was probably running 150, 55 miles an hour.
Third position, third and fourth here. Sterling Marlin at number 94 and Mark Martin at number 6. 15 laps to the halfway point and $10,000 to the leader of the race. Now, it just so happens that the halfway point is going to be very near when these guys need another pit stop.
Yes, it will, Bob, and it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure if Kyle Petty, if he can possibly do it, he'll stay out there if he can be leading and take that $10,000, or anybody else that is in position to do it and forego a lap or so as far as the pit stops. But it is going to come in an area when they will be making green flag pit stops.
Mark Martin watching Sterling Marlin ahead. We're going to take another commercial break here so that we can be back when all of this excitement takes place. The halfway challenge and $10,000 plus the possibility of pit stops right at that particular time. So we'll be back in just a moment at Rockingham. Nine laps from the halfway point. It's been all Kyle Petty, or just about all Kyle Petty this afternoon. We've had other leaders, but he certainly has dominated so far. Ricky Rudd is running second, followed by Mark Martin. Sterling Marlin is fourth, and Ken Schrader is running in fifth position. There is Kyle Petty ahead of Brett Bodine in the Quaker State Buick.
Brett, of course, has had a lot of problems here this afternoon. He has been in and out of the pits, many laps down, but still out there running as many laps as he possibly can to pick up as many Winston Cup points as he can.
Whatever good luck that Kyle has had, Brett's made up for it with bad luck.
That's the truth. Now, we saw there for a moment that Jeff Bodine was not too far ahead. There's the second place car of Ricky Rudd, but Jeff Bodine not too far ahead of Kyle Petty. He would go 2 laps down. It wasn't, well, it was a little while ago, but it was during this run that Jeff momentarily was back in the lead lap, and now Kyle is coming up to put a second lap on.
About 65 laps ago, because we've been about 70 laps since the last pit stop for these cars.
We're looking for the number 6 car, who is in third position. There goes Ricky Rudd out of the frame. And now we're looking for the red number 6, and there he is. That is Mark Martin running in third spot.
We moved around Sterling Marlin a little while ago. Marlin was running third and is pulled away.
There's Richard Petty and Sterling Marlin behind Mark Martin. Richard Petty in the SVP Pontiac, Sterling Marlin in Sunoco Oldsmobile.
Mark has pulled away now from Sterling. Richard Petty, one of those who started this race from a backup car after a crash earlier.
As well as Sterling Marlin behind Richard. Crashed yesterday afternoon. Yep. That car is also a backup, as well as Ken Schrader's.
Marlin now will try to pass Richard as they go into the third turn, and he will successfully do so. We see Jeff Bodine into the pits for his regularly scheduled stop, maybe just a little bit early because he was one of those who went the furthest last time on a tank of fuel.
Yeah, but I think the car was going away with him, Bob, and that's why they decided to come on in early. We documented the fact that he was about to go a lap down, another lap down. Let's go to the pits and Jerry.
That's exactly correct, Ned. The car was going away on Jeff Bodine. It's actually about 15 laps early for what would have been their scheduled stop. They come in and change right side tires, now put the left side tires. He is down and away. So you sit out there with worn out tires, and as the car gets slower and slower, you'll just lose laps of time to the leaders. They decided to go ahead and pit early and change all 4 tires.
Well, he wasn't going to win the halfway challenge money anyway, so it really doesn't make any difference if he comes in a little bit early. However, this guy has a lot at stake, as there are now 245 laps completed. Next time around will be the $10,000 bonus mark for Kyle Petty. Hope you've registered to win that Pontiac because sometime after the halfway point in the next hour, you will be receiving a call, and if you know who leads at the halfway point, you're going to win a Pontiac, and here it comes. The cross flags are shown, and Kyle Petty. Kyle Petty is the winner of $10,000 in the right guard halfway challenge. Remember, Kyle Petty, the leader at the halfway point. If you're called in the next hour and you say Kyle Petty, you're going to win a Pontiac.
I'm not going to win. I picked Ricky Rudd. I called him and told him Ricky Rudd, so I can't win.
Let's go to Jerry Punch, who's in Kyle's pit.
Do you think these guys were thinking about the halfway challenge? Think they thought anything about getting that $10,000? Well, let me take a look at their toolbox. Take a look here. Attention, NASCAR drivers. Right guard halfway challenge. They were definitely ready to win it today. Now Kyle can come in and make his pit stop, but he is headed down pit road. Let's take a look. Kyle's going to pit the Peak Antifreeze Pontiac.
Yes, he is, Jerry.
Coming out of turn 3 into turn 4 and down pit road. Kyle Petty, the man who has been so dominant here in the first couple of hundred laps, 247 laps now complete at North Carolina Motor Speedway, and he brings the Pontiac down pit road. John Wilson and the crew go to work will change the right side tire. You hear Kyle now revving the engine very high. Don't want to stall the motor here on pit road and possibly lose a lap. They change right side tires. They will come around and change left side tires. Ricky Rudd now coming out of turn 4. Coming down out of turn 4, Rudd will come by and put Kyle Petty a lap down, but Kyle's car just so very, very slow. 4 tires in 23.3 seconds. He is down and away.
They're waiting for Rusty Wallace to come in. In fact, they had the board out the lap before, but Rusty was so high coming off of turn 4 in traffic that he couldn't get down, but he is coming into the pits now. Wallace had dropped out of the top 5 and dropped back to 6th position.
Rudd, meanwhile, shows no sign of coming in for a stop. He maintains the lead. Here is Jerry Punch with Rusty Wallace's stop.
An ill-handling Pontiac for Rusty Wallace has been the problem for about the past 25 laps, and will finally get to make their scheduled green flag stop and change tires. The crew now working on the right side of the car. Jimmy Maycar, John Dodson, Barry Dodson have changed right side tires. On the crew cam here is Maycar now working on the left front tires. Runs around the front of the car. He takes a look as they roll the tire to him. Replaces the left front tire, puts the lug nuts on. Barry Dodson now to get ready to pull the jacket. The defending champion. 29 seconds flat. Rusty Wallace in the way.
You don't see that much, but they had a problem on that pit stop. You can see 29 seconds. Normally it would take these guys about 21, 22 seconds. 8 seconds Rusty lost in the pits that time.
And that's valuable in terms of track position. Let's watch Ricky Rudd coming out of the 4th turn. No, he does not come in.
Ricky Rudd is the leader, but Kyle Petty, we talked about the 8 or 9 seconds. Kyle Petty is trying to pass Rusty Wallace, and there he is going to turn 1. Kyle Petty and Rusty Wallace.
Yes.
Rusty was about a half lap behind Kyle, and now Kyle is a lap ahead of him, so that's how much he lost on the pit stop.
The number 94 car, Sterling Marlin, is in. So is Ken Schrader. So is Alan Kowicki. All those drivers on the lead lap. That red car at the top of your screen momentarily there was Derry Cope. Here comes Ricky Rudd, and Dick Berggren is in his pit.
And they're going to make a 4-tire change almost certainly. You can see him watching down pit road, and virtually every crew member stuck 4 fingers up in the air. They all knew what the game was here this afternoon. Brand new tires, Rudd sitting calmly in his automobile. They got 1 tank in. Sterling Marlin down. He is up at the other end of the pit road, as are just about all the other fast cars. Here goes Ricky Rudd with a good stop, 20.8 feet.
Dale Earnhardt visits the pits once again. Here comes Mark Martin into the pits. He was the leader, but now he gives up the top position as he comes in for his scheduled stop. Jerry.
Mark Martin brings the focus forward down pit road. He turns left, backs to the right, turns on the brakes, and comes to a halt here. Robin Peppard and Steve Bill and the rest of the crew now will change the right side tires. He likewise will get 4 tires. A lot of concern here about the handling of these cars at Rockingham on the radial, so everybody opts to take 4 tires off. They scamper around the left side of the car. Jack beneath the car. They roll the left front and left rear tire back in position. Lug nuts are being zapped on by the air car. Down and away. Good pit stop for the Folgers crew.
Bill Elliott remains on pit road. Bill Elliott we haven't talked very much about. However, he has been able to stay on the lead lap all afternoon. When he came in for the pit stop, he was running in 8th position, and he certainly isn't out of this contest.
You jinxed him, I believe, because I think Kyle Petty is going to pass him before he can get to the back straightaway. There we see Bill coming off the 2nd corner, There goes Terry Labonte by on the outside, and
There
there
he
goes Kyle Petty. They're putting him a lap down.
Yep.
What do you say?
Be all right. Third and fourth place finishes in the 1990 Winston Cup season for Bill. He's got the car back up to speed now, and he may be able to get back on the lead lap as he closes in on Kyle.
Well, they both have new tires, but Kyle's car has just been working so well all day long.
We got almost half a race to go for you here at Rockingham. At the moment, the leader is Kyle Petty. We'll be right back. The Sandhills and Pine Tree country of North Carolina, NASCAR Winston Cup racing from Rockingham, the Goodwrench 500 on this Sunday afternoon. A beautiful day in this area of the country. A little bit breezy and cool, but certainly nothing like it was last week in Richmond when the temperature was hovering around the freezing mark with a severe wind chill. Very comfortable for the race fans who have gathered here this afternoon for this Winston Cup race. There's the leader of the event, Kyle Petty, in car number 42. There is a tremendous crowd on hand here this afternoon, but not as big as yesterday's Grand National race. They had people everywhere for that Grand National race. The largest crowd in the history of North Carolina Motor Speedway yesterday for the Grand National race. Now, there is a little bit of other side to that story. There were quite a few tickets given away in a promotion put on by the GM people around this area, so that's the reason why perhaps people came that wouldn't normally come.
Tremendous promotion in the Carolinas and adjoining states here, and yes, they had contests at various GM dealerships and had a lot of people here who maybe didn't buy their tickets, but they saw a good race.
They sure did, and maybe they'll come back and pay next time to see a race. Three abreast competition here on the front stretch as Ken Schrader and Dale Earnhardt and Bobby Hillen went in there side by side.
Now, Ken Schrader's running a lap down. We saw him not too long ago in the top 5. He is 1 lap down to Kyle Petty. He's running in the 6th position. Only 5 cars are in the lead lap. Kyle Petty, Ricky Rudd running 2nd, 3rd is Mark Martin, 4th is Sterling Marlin, and Alan Kowicki is running 5th, and he's not too far ahead of Kyle Petty from going a lap down. He's right up in that front bunch of cars you see in front of Kyle.
Well, we talked in the opening of the show about how many bizarre incidents have occurred already in this Winston Cup season, and I don't know whether you would necessarily call it a bizarre incident if Kyle Petty were to win, but he hasn't won a race in a couple of years, and certainly it would be sort of an unusual experience if he should win and carry on this situation that we've seen. Now here's Ken Schrader unlapping himself.
Good smart move there by Kyle. Just backed off and let him do it. He got boxed in there with his dad when both of them passed him. One went on the inside and one on the outside. And of course, Schrader's running very fast right now, so Kyle didn't fight him. He's running a very good, smart race today.
A spin.
Bud Strickland, the Davey Allison car, spins in turn number 3 between 3 and 4, and Bill Elliott was also involved. Elliott is headed for the pits with some damage on the right side of that race car. A tough break for Bill Elliott, who was running well.
Yes, he was running in 7th position, but a lot of damage to the car, as you can see, as he slides the Coors forward, tries to get it into his pits.
Elliott, it appears, is going to pull behind the wall. Here's a replay.
The 28 car blows up, and we see Bill Elliott get in the water, oil, or whatever, and he just can't control the car. He goes straight in the wall.
There was a lot of fluid pouring from that 28 car that caused Bill Elliott to lose it, and he has pulled behind the wall, and the hood goes up on that car. They'll try to make repairs and get him back out there, but it's going to take a while. Meanwhile, the leaders come in, and Kyle Petty is there with Jerry Punch.
Kyle Petty reaching for an ice cold drink as they will change 4 tires and clean the windshield. NASCAR has allowed the crews to have an extra person to come over the wall now to service the driver and clean the windshield. Getting concerned a little bit about what Benny Parsons mentioned earlier about the reflection and the glare on the end of turn 1. The entire pit road full of the leaders here. Rusty Wallace is in here. Petty's car is out of the way. Other cars. Ernie Irvin, Mark Martin, and here Ricky Rudd headed back down pit road as Kyle Petty moves back on the track over toward turn 2.
Flurry of pit stop activity, and some of it still going on as Mark Martin now goes down off the tracks and begins to pull away from his pit area.
Boy, how timely can it be for a fellow to get back in the lead lap? Ken Schrader had just passed Kyle Petty, and then that happens up there in turn 3, so now Ken Schrader, that's his 6 cars in the lead lap.
And And the work goes on in the Bill Elliott car as Bill himself is out of the machine, surveying the damage done when he made contact with the wall after Hud Strickland spun.
The question I've got is Bill Elliott had slowed just prior to that. He had slowed. I was watching Bill. He came off the second corner and slowed dramatically.
Now we'll take a look at the incident from the in-car camera of Harry Gant in slow motion. You can see the 28 car spinning right now.
And you see the dark spot down on the corner. That was water or whatever the fluid was that the 28 lost.
Now we'll play this for you in real time and let you listen to the sound of the incident. Harry Gant's perspective. Harry Gant taking evasive action and getting by that incident there. And we go down now to the pit area, and Dick is with Mike Beam, the crew chief on the Bill Elliott car.
Well, Mike, it looks pretty well beaten up. Can you guys fix this thing and get it back onto the racetrack?
I think that car blew up in front of him or something. He hit the wall.
So you're all done for the day?
Yep.
And Bill Elliott has already left the scene. He's headed to the garage area where he's going to change his clothes and go home.
We're going to see a shuffling of Winston Cup points here this afternoon, undoubtedly. Bill Elliott came into this event in third position, 10 points behind the leader, who is Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt is having his problems, to say the very least. He is undoubtedly going to fall out of the Winston Cup points lead. However, Ricky Rudd, who came in running second in the Winston Cup points, only 5 behind Earnhardt, is doing very, very well. So he could be the Winston Cup points leader at the end of the day.
But as you mentioned, we still got a half a race to go.
Yep. A lot of racing yet to come. All right, let's take a look at the replay once again, Ned.
It looked like Davey Allison had just passed Bill Elliott going into that turn and then blew right in front of him. Now, it didn't show it from this particular angle. And of course, Elliott's tires, that's Hud Strickland driving the Davey Allison car. And once Elliott's front tires hit the oil, it just shot him right up into the wall. But on another shot we had, it looked like that he just had passed him as he went into the turn and then blew up right in front of him.
And there is Bill Elliott's car apparently through for the day here in the Goodwrench 500 at Rockingham. Back at Rockingham, where down the backstretch, the lead is held by Kyle Petty in car number 42, now running just ahead of Kyle. And that black number 27 is Rusty Wallace. He is at the tail end of the lead lap in 7th spot.
And so is Dick Trickle, who is running in 8th spot, running right in front of Kyle. Kyle having a little problem getting around both of them. They were running side by side for a moment, but now he disposes of Trickle, puts him a lap down. He wants to catch Rusty and put him a lap down because, as Benny Parsons said earlier, that crew has come back from laps down before, and he knows if he can keep that lap down, that he's in much better shape.
Phillips 66 in car camera beside Dick Trickle. Watching now Ricky Rudd past Dick Trickle going into turn number 1. That's the second place car of Rudd, the Levi Garrett Chevrolet number 5. Look at the smoke from the car that they see, or was that a reflection?
It does look like some smoke underneath that car. I really can't tell. Back up a little bit, Dick. Don't get so close to him until we see him. Yeah, that is smoke.
Yes, it is.
It is smoke. A lot of smoke.
And it's becoming more prominent from Ricky Rudd's car. We'll watch this situation. The second place car may be in trouble. He is indeed dropping back from Kyle Petty.
Car seems to be running okay. It's probably just an oil leak or something like that, but they don't cure themselves. And the black flag, they have just black flagged Ricky Rudd.
Yes, they have. Rudd has been black flagged, so we talked about how Ricky Rudd may be the points leader at the end of the day. Well, he may not be, because he is going to have to come in for a black flag.
Boy, what a tough break for him. He has run a very, very good race here today. Coming from far back in the field.
Let's go to Dick Berggren, who can report on this situation.
Well, be able to report on it when he gets in, but right now they don't know what the smoke is coming from. They're all a little bit puzzled about where this thing is and what the problem is, but they're starting out by looking underneath the car. That's not a good sign. It's easier to fix things that are under the hood than under the car, and indeed there are some wisps of smoke Coming out right now, people looking in every imaginable direction. There are 4 men laying on their stomach trying to find it. Waddell Wilson's pointing up in the area of the front of the transmission or the rear main seal, and that's where their attention seems to be forming. Not a good sign if that's where it is. That's not what they want to see happen.
And now, so with Ricky Rudd in the pits, now pulling back out onto the racetrack, we have a battle for second position shaping up between Sterling Marlin and Mark Martin. And here they are coming off turn number 4. Marlin now is in second spot with Mark Martin third. And now Mark heads for the high side of the racetrack in turn 2. Marlin, however, able to hold on to second.
Yeah, Marlin came off of the low side of the racetrack, got good traction, and was able to pull away a little bit.
And while we're watching this, I can tell you that Kyle Petty has put Rusty Wallace a lap down again. Moving around the slower car of Larry Pearson.
Marlin's car wiggling just a little bit as he comes off the turns.
Now Mark will take a look to the inside, headed for turn number 3. They go into the corner side by side. Run through that corner all the way side by side, and now Mark gets the advantage coming out of the turn, and Mark Martin has second. Trickle, meanwhile, is watching all of this.
We got cameras watching cameras, don't we?
That's right. Dale Yarborough, Phillips 66 in-car camera providing the shots of Sterling Marlin and Mark Martin just ahead of Dick Trickle.
Trickle running. Well, actually, they're showing him 2 laps down now, even though he is in 8th place. We have only 2 cars. We have 5 cars in the lead lap. They're Kyle Petty, Mark Martin, Sterling Marlin, Alan Kowicki, and Ken Schrader. And Rusty Wallace has just gone a lap down, so he's in 6th position, and Jeff Bodine is in 7th place, 1 lap down. Dick Trickle in 8th place, 2 laps down. Then Darrell Waltrip in 9th. Terry Labonte showing up in the top 10. He's 2 laps down. Morgan Shepherd is 11th. Terry Gant in 12th. Jimmy Spencer 13th, and 14th is Phil Parsons. And 3 laps down is Richard Petty in 15th place, and the Daytona 500 runner Derek Cope running 16th. He too is 3 laps down.
The number 5 car of Ricky Rudd still having problems now, well off the pace, and in fact heading for the pit area again. He's not headed for the pit area, he's headed for the garage area. They're going to try to fix this car and get it back in, but at the moment Ricky Rudd pulls the car into the garage area.
And there's a big toolbox following him with about 10 guys around it. There we go. They got to have the tools to work with, and they're chasing the car with the toolbox.
You know, Benny, they looked under the car when he made that original pit stop, and they didn't do anything to the car. I thought they were sending him back out to run a couple of laps while they did this. Took all this back to the garage area to be ready for him when he came in. But I guess
that's what I thought, that they were just, that they realized what the problem was and was going back to the truck to get it ready to work on. But
you know, guys, what these guys are doing is getting as many points as possible for the Winston Cup
And there's a spin over in turn 2.
Looks like it's a number 90 car, Bernie Urban, the Don Levy Ford, spinning in corner number 2. We're going to be yellow. Yes, we do.
And let's see where Kyle Petty and Rusty Wallace are.
they have not taken the caution yet. There's Kyle.
And Rusty will be racing him back to the flag. And, of course, they both know where the accident is. Now, Kyle, it looks like it's slowed a little. Now he has picked back up, but he will be able to hold Rusty off and keep him a lap down.
He leads Rusty across the line, and so Rusty is now a full lap down the field. This is our 6th caution period of the day. Our Western Auto mid-race recap. Kyle Petty, leading, has led 229 of the 280 laps at an average speed of 122.727 miles an hour. 9 leaders, 14 lead changes, 5 cautions. We're in our 6th right now. 5 cars on the lead lap at the end of 229 laps. Here are those that have led a lap: Petty, Wallace, Rudd, Marlin, Elliott, and Dick Trickle. Also Terry Labonte, Jeff Bodine, and Mark Martin as Kyle Petty comes into the pits. Out of race, J.T. Hayes, Charlie Baker, Neil Bonnet, J.D. McDuffie, Hut Strickland, and Bill Elliott. All of those cars out of the race. Now, Mechanic of the Year. Here are the current standings. The Mechanic of the Race is chosen after each event, and then at the end of the year, the Mechanic of the Year is chosen. At the current time, Waddell Wilson leads in points over Mike Beam, Robin Pemberton, Gary Nelson, and Tim Brewer. We watch the mechanics go to work on the cars as all the leaders have once again come in for a pit stop. There goes Kyle Petty as he pulls out of the pit area. Rusty Wallace also heads out. They are working on Ricky Rudd's car back in the garage area, trying to get it fixed. Dick?
Well, it looks like it's going to be an extended stay. They've just taken the U-bolts out of the drive shaft, and that's the first step to removing a transmission in an automobile. Just about everybody with a yellow suit is underneath this car. They were hoping at first it was potentially just a grease fitting, but apparently they've decided it's something more serious. It's going to be a long time behind the wall for Ricky Rudd. He had run so well today.
And so with the 6th caution period out over North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham, we'll pause for another commercial break. We'll be back with more after this. Still under caution at North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham. This area of the country known not only for the racetrack, but also a very successful football team. And Benny has more as he tells you about his hat of the week.
Down US 1 South from the North Carolina Motor Speedway is Richmond Senior High School. 1,800 kids, 3 grades. And this football team has really brought some recognition to this school the past couple of years. They are 30-0 with 2 state championships. Here, hold this a second, Animal. When Jim Harris from Rockingham, North Carolina said I should make the Raiders cap the hat of the week, I agreed with him. I thought I'd come down to the school and do it. I got a letter from Margaret Robeson from Goodwrench, New York. Greenwich Central School, their band is having a Pops concert and a celebrity auction March 9th and 10th. Greenwich, New York. Folks, go by, say hello to Margaret, and bid on the hat. And folks, come here 3 feet.
Yeah! Nice looking bunch of boys. The basketball team doesn't do bad either.
The basketball team Friday night won the, oh, there's the address where you can send me. If you, folks, if you got a hat that you think fits a racetrack we're going to be this year, send it to me at this address. And also, if you got if you want to have a celebrity auction or something, need a hat for it, send it in and we'll pick some hats for some celebrity auction. Now we're back to green flag.
The hat of the week in his 2nd year. The green flag out. Kyle Petty leads him down once again, and Rusty Wallace once again gets his lap back momentarily. Let's see, however, what Kyle does.
Well, it'll take Kyle a few laps to pass him back. Yesterday in the Busch Grand National race, on a restart, the fast cars were on the inside and the slower cars on the outside. It's to the advantage of being on the inside, and Rusty Wallace certainly liked that.
Rusty able to stay ahead of Kyle.
He's in 6th spot, lap down to Kyle Petty.
And we talked about it would be strange. There's Alan Kowicki, Sterling Marlin, and Ken Schrader.
And all these guys are racing for position.
As for 3rd position, they're racing for. Alan Kowicki looks like he's going to take over 3rd. Well, maybe not. Sterling Marlin has different ideas, but he goes a little high.
Mark Martin is 2nd, by the way. Then comes the number 7 of Alan Kowicki, then the 25 of Ken Schrader, and then Sterling Marlin. And we watch this from the in-car camera of Dick Trickle. More on Alan Kowicki. Here's Jerry.
Apparently, Alvin has reported an overheating problem with the car prior to this last caution flag pit stop. He had backed off a little bit and not had the wick turned up quite as high as he would like to, running under the green flag. They brought the car down pit road. Apparently had a lot of rubber and debris in the front grille of the car. They scraped it away. Now the car is cooled down appropriately so he can go back to full racing. As Kyle Petty puts Rusty Wallace a lap down once again.
You were right, Ned. It took him about 3 laps, and he puts Rusty down again.
Well, he got to run off of turn 2 over there down on the inside and just motored right on by.
You know, we talked about Kyle Petty and, you know, the strange things that happen. You know, it wouldn't be so strange Kyle winning, but the strange thing is him dominating in the fashion that he is. We're just not accustomed to seeing Kyle dominate a race. And I tell you what, he has been the talk of the town today.
No question about it. He is everything about there. They've got good pit stop in the car. It's worked beautiful. He's driven well. Everything is gone right for him.
And this has got to heighten the interest in Winston Cup racing this year. Derek Cope wins a race. Mark Martin wins a race. Maybe Kyle Petty wins a race. You think of Dale Earnhardt and Bill Elliott and Rusty Wallace winning races, but they're not this year.
Well, I tell you, it just points out the fact that you put a good race car under most of the drivers out here, and they can win with it.
Look at this 3 piece through here.
Come on, Shirley, make it 4.
No, Sterling, don't do that.
Schrader takes the spot away from Kowicki.
Kowicki with that overheating problem decided to slow down just a little bit.
That 66 car of Dick Trickle is using the high groove, but he's doing well up there.
He's making pretty good time up there. It's a long ways around this racetrack. You talked about it being a 1.017 mile racetrack. Where he's running, it's about a mile and a quarter, but he's making pretty good time.
Ken Schrader and Sterling Marlin nose to tail.
And Dick Trickle on the outside. Trickle driving a little deeper into the turns, going high, but Schrader's able to get on the gas a little bit quicker. Comes off the turn, and it looks like he's going to move around. Now, they're not fighting for position. Trickle's a couple laps down.
A great performance for Sterling Marlin this afternoon in the number 94 Oldsmobile, Sunoco Oldsmobile. But although he's thinking about the race, also preoccupied with something else this weekend, aren't you, Sterling?
Yeah, my wife, she's going to have a baby. She went to the doctor before I come up here and said it's 50-50 chance she'd have it this weekend. So I told her to hang on. I'd be home Sunday night.
And he may be home with several thousands more dollars to help pay the hospital bill.
That'd be nice.
The 19th and the 13th for Sterling Marlin so far in the 1990 Winston Cup season, but at the moment he is 4th. Kowicki, number 7, is 5th. We're inside Dick Trickle's car once again. And now the sun that we talked about earlier in the afternoon is beginning to once again become a factor.
Well, that glare really is tough. And that's why NASCAR has allowed, as Jerry Punch mentioned earlier, the fellow to go across the wall to make sure that the windshield is clean, perfectly clean on these race cars.
Let's get out to Dick Berggren, who has more on the Sterling Marlin story.
Well, there's an awful lot of smiles down in this pit area as well. There might be some smiles. What you need to realize is that not only did these guys not get an opportunity to practice this car at all, they actually built the car in the garage area. After the wreck late yesterday afternoon, they took the engine, they took the gear out of the rear end, they took shocks and springs, everything they could pirate off the car that they wrecked, stuck it on this thing. They've got no laps of practice whatsoever on it. And here they are out in contention to run and win. And this team has won at Rockingham in the past. Terry Labonte then was the driver, and Steve Beal was the crew chief.
So Sterling Marlin in 4th position, chasing down the leader of the race, the number 42 Peak Pontiac of Kyle Petty. 1989, Kyle led one race for 16 laps. That was at Pocono. He is dominating here this afternoon. Down to his crew chief, Gary Nelson, Jerry Punch.
There is no doubt that Kyle Petty has matured as a driver in the past year, and Gary Nelson knows more than anyone else how much he has changed. Gary, Kyle has really come a long way in the past year. What was the big difference for Kyle getting comfortable with the radial?
Well, we did a lot of testing for Goodyear last summer on radial tires, and it took a lot of the drivers a long time to get comfortable with them. I think the younger drivers had an easier time adapting to the radials, so for Kyle it was almost a natural for him to move into a new team, try and get used to new cars and the radials. Once it all came together, boy, he's really tough now.
Well, I've got to ask you, put you on the spot a little bit. You got to enjoy what's happening today, but you also had a good time with us a year or so ago. Would you rather be down here in the pits watching your car lead or be up in the booth talking with Benny, Bob, and Ned?
Well, let me tell you, on days like today, this is the only place to be. On days when you're running in the back and have a lot of problems, upstairs is my favorite place.
Well, I got to believe we're going to see a lot of Gary Nelson right here on the pit road all year. If this is any indication of how strong Kyle Petty is going to be. Gentlemen?
Well, he has been strong. That's a very good word to use to describe his performance all weekend long. The pole sitter and a strong performance in the race so far.
Benny Bob Ned, that's a good Southern name, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Is that one person or three? The 25 and 94 cars continue to do battle on the racetrack, passing Dale Earnhardt, who still is having his handling problems in that Goodwrench Chevrolet car number 3. But the 25 of Schrader and the 94 of Marlin are still battling for that 3rd spot. Mark Martin once again is running 2nd. And here comes Ricky Rudd back onto the racetrack after many, many laps back in the garage area trying to fix a transmission on the car. Here comes Rudd back in competition.
And while Jerry Punch was talking to Gary Nelson, Kyle Petty's dad, Richard, went behind the wall in the STP Pontiac, but he may be back. They're working on his car as well.
Schrader and Marlin once again. Now Earnhardt is hooked up on the back bumper of Sterling.
Sterling Marlin has been racing with somebody this whole live-long day. Every time we look around, he's on camera because he's been racing with Schrader and Mark Martin and Alan Kowicki. Did I see a little smoke out of that car?
You sure did. I saw it. Yeah, there was some smoke. Is that car going to be the next that goes? But you remember, we noticed the smoke several laps ago, and even at the very drop of the green flag, and it hasn't seemed to have gotten any worse.
Well, maybe it's not anything to be too concerned about. Then. It certainly doesn't affect his speed that much. It doesn't seem like.
And the smoke isn't that severe for NASCAR to have to black flag him.
That was the last car Dick Berger talking about all the work they did to the car after wrecking the primary car yesterday afternoon. It was the last car to get on the grid today. They were working right up to the last minute to make all of those changes and get this car ready.
Marlin runs into the first and second corners side by side with Brett Bodine in the Quaker State Buick. While we watch the action on the racetrack and Kyle Petty the leader, we can tell you that Ricky Rudd has once again pulled into the garage area. We are 311 laps into the Goodwrench 500. There are 5 cars on the lead lap, and here they are. The leader is Kyle Petty. Mark Martin is second. Ken Schrader third. Sterling Marlin fourth. And Alan Kowicki fifth. The second 5, 6 through 10. A lap down Jeff Bodine, a lap down Rusty Wallace, 2 laps down Dick Trickle, Morgan Shepherd, and Jimmy Spencer, also 2 laps down. Let's continue, 11 through 15. Also 2 laps down, Phil Parsons, Terry Labonte, Harry Gant, and Darrell Waltrip. And in 15, 3 laps down is Rick Mast. The racing doesn't stop when we're through with this event. At 4:30 this afternoon, the Copper Classic from Phoenix International Raceway, the Silver Crown portion of that race. That's at 4:30 Eastern Time this afternoon here on ESPN. One of the competitors in that race, Kenny Schrader, who is in action this afternoon, and as a matter of fact, running in 3rd spot. There
Evidently, that's not live.
That's correct. That was taped about a month and a half ago. But I'll tell you what, Kenny Schrader would try to make it if it wasn't.
You're right.
Jump on an airplane someplace. There is Kenny running with Rusty Wallace. Remember, Rusty a lap down now in 7th spot. Schrader continuing to have brake problems. Is that right, Dick?
Well, that we'll find out for sure from the guy who really knows. Richard Drew, how are the brakes on your automobile?
Well, kind of marginal right now. I'm not sure whether they're going to hold out to the end or not, but we're just praying.
How hard can you run when you've got a brake problem here?
Well, we're running as hard as we can.
Well, they still got a long ways to go. Do you feel you can make it in the end, or you're going to run out of brakes before this thing is over?
No, I think we can make it to the end.
Well, they're going to roll the dice and hope they still got brakes and still got cars. They've got a lot of race to go.
Well, as someone who hasn't done a whole lot of auto racing in his career, I just find it absolutely incredible that anybody can run 150 or 55 miles an hour and do it without brakes. Now, here are a couple of cars who are battling for position, for 11th, as a matter of fact. Terry Labonte in car number 1 and the number 4 car of Phil Parsons. And both drivers under new color and sponsorship in the 1990 season.
In fact, the car number 1 is the one that Phil Parsons did drive, and the car number 4 is the car that Rick Wilson rode and years prior to that.
When you say drive without brakes, Ken Schrader has some brakes, Bob. He just doesn't have all the brakes that he really needs to run as fast as he possibly can, but he does have some brakes.
We'll show the cars that are out of the race. Yeah, but at the same time, if I wanted to stop, I'd want to stop right now.
But you're a chicken, see?
Well, that's true. Nobody's ever accused me of being afraid. And those cars that are behind the wall, not necessarily out of the race yet, Ricky Rudd. He was out for a few laps and then pulled behind the wall once again. Phil Parsons now beginning to lag behind Terry Labonte just a little bit for that 11th spot. There's the leader, Kyle Petty.
And as we go to break, brake once again. Ricky Rudd again comes out of the garage.
So it's an in-and-out situation for Ricky Rudd as he is trying to get as many Winston Cup points as possible that might make a difference in a few $1,000s come November and Atlanta International Raceway when the season ends. So we will take another break and be back with more live coverage on this Sunday afternoon from The Rock. Back at Rockingham, North Carolina, and the Goodwrench 500 being led at the moment by Kyle Petty, the Peak Pontiac number 42, with 328 laps completed. Michael Waltrip is still out there in competition in car number 30. He is more than 5 laps down, back at place number 20. You know, many aspire to be a race car driver. Others dream of becoming a Winston Cup crew member. Jerry Punch takes a look at a member of Michael Waltrip's crew who has moved to the very top of his profession. Jerry?
Life as a Winston Cup crew member, everyone knows it isn't easy. But Bahari Racing's Robert Myers knows all about it. Myers, a graduate of the Nashville Auto Diesel College, has become quite a success in a short period of time.
You know, not bragging, but I was proud of the awards that I got, which is all of them that they had to offer. And I got the highest grade in the history of the school on a comprehensive test.
But see, Robert isn't an ordinary mechanic. This is what he sees when working. 13 years ago, Robert was struck in the head by a bullet, causing him to permanently lose his eyesight. But he never lost sight of his dream, a dream to become a Winston Cup mechanic. Last spring, the Bahari team provided him with that chance.
I have a youngest daughter that has hydrocephalus, and she's overcome so much in her life that she's like a normal child. And when Robert came and spoke with us, and he spoke of his background and his determination and his interest of being with the Winston Cup team, we had to give him that chance.
And as far as his ability to work on the race car, he's got as much ability or more than any employee there. You know, anything he does, I have the utmost confidence that it's done right, and I don't even think twice about him being blind.
Robert's responsibilities are many. He primarily is in charge of the brakes and gears on Michael Waltrip's car. Specially made tools assist him in his task. Some have Braille on them, while others are voice activated.
Figuring the weight percentage on the car, for instance.
Divided by.
Show you how this thing works.
3, 5, 0, 0 equals 0.482.
Okay, that's showing that 48% of the weight is on the rear of the car.
As his career has come together, so has his personal life. He has met a very special lady who has supported him during his climb towards success and who he hopes will stay with him to enjoy it.
It takes a mighty big person to, you know, take a person that's got a disadvantage, a handicap, or whatever it might be, and take time to listen to them and try to understand them. To me, that's a mighty big person that can do something like that. The only thing I have a problem with is her. I want her to be my wife, and if she'd just give me an answer, then I'd be satisfied with the right answer, I should say. And if I could get the right answer out of her and make all this circle that I've been working on just come on around and get complete, then you know, I'd be tickled to death for the rest of my life.
We are here in the Michael Waltrip pits with Robert Myers and his very special friend Louise Rose, and they are sitting here. Robert is listening to the crew radio back and forth talking to Mike Waltrip, and remember, the brakes and the gears in that car are what he assembled. Now, let's find out from Louise a little bit. Now, Robert told us he's been asking you for a long time. Have you made any decision yet about marriage?
Well, I'm considering it very seriously, but I've always heard that good things are worth waiting for.
Still going to hold off a little bit, okay?
Yes. He's a real special person in my life right now, and I'm seriously considering it.
Louise Rose and Robert Myers, two very special people here in the pits today. Bob?
Very wonderful story about how handicaps aren't handicaps under certain situations. Kyle Petty is leading. However, look at Sterling Marlin. That car may be slowing down because the 7 car of Alan Kowicki is closing in, and he's taking the position away from Sterling Marlin.
Sterling slowed down dramatically the last couple of laps. Look, he's working the wheel back and forth. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't have a flat tire, Ned.
Well, he might have, or either the tires have completely gone away on it. He has now dropped back to 5th place, the last car on the lead lap. A little bit of smoke you can still see coming from that car.
Still seeing a little bit of smoke from that car. So now Alan Kowicki moves to 4th, and Sterling Marlin back to 5th. Dick, can you update us?
Well, they're trying to keep their chins up down here, and they're saying that the car is just getting loose, which is the case with a number of other cars like Rusty Wallace, and they're hoping for a pit stop, but they are slowing dramatically. They're saying the smoke is just from the header contacting the racetrack when it bounces around the corner. So some interesting stories here with car 94. We'll find out as the race winds down.
All right, so Marlin now back in 5th position. He becomes the last car on the lead lap.
And Bob, while we were in that wonderful story about Robert Myers, the leading rookie contender this year, Rob Moroso, pushed his car behind the wall or into the garage area and out of the race, and Ricky Rudd put his back in the garage area once again, so apparently he just has given it up for the day.
And there is Rusty Wallace, who now runs with Sterling Marlin on the racetrack. Rusty a lap down in 7th position. We've completed 341 laps of this 492-lap race that makes up the Goodwrench 500 here at Rockingham. We'll be back in just a moment. Celebrating its silver anniversary of racing, we are live at North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham. Winston Cup racing this afternoon, the GM Goodwrench 500. Our Speed World coverage is being brought to you by Suzuki, by Pronto, featuring quality auto parts at lower prices, and by Levi's 505 and 506 jeans. And Kyle Petty leads the Goodwrench 500 here at Rockingham. He has pretty much dominated this race. Continuing to slip backward, however, is Sterling Marlin in car number 94. He remains on the lead lap in 5th position, but you can see that the handling has gone away on that car.
It's all he can do to keep the car going straight. It really is. He's not concerned about going through the corners fast. He's concerned about going through the corners.
Kyle Petty has about a 2 3/10 second lead over Mark Martin. He's not pulling away. Really, they've sort of stabilized in that margin for the last 15 or 20 laps.
I thought Sterling was going to come in for a pit stop. Look at that. Oh, man.
Yeah, he's going to have to come in for long because he's going to be around, at 360 if he's not careful.
That's right.
And, Sterling, I'm sure.
Look at that.
I mean, the car is just, it looks like he's got a flat tire.
He needs a pit stop very bad. I'm sure they would like to go far enough so that they can make it on one more stop, but I don't think he's going to make it that far.
He's keeping the car low on the racetrack because when he comes out, look at him sawing the wheel, trying to keep the car under control.
Like I said before, he's trying to keep the car going straight. But, he's run so good all day, and he felt like he's going to have a good finish, make some money to go home, to have the baby, and now all of a sudden, all that's going out the window. But it's not the end of the world. All he's got to do is make a pit stop, and it might be the proper time.
Okay, let's pan back the field. There's the leader, Kyle Petty, Pete Pontiac, number 42. There is Kyle looking for his 3rd Winston Cup career win. And remember, if he wins this race, he wins the Unical bonus money of $228,000. Here's a team that would like very much to find a sponsor, allowing them to continue to race in the Winston Cup Series this year. Larry Pearson, number 16.
Yeah, they say they might not even go to Atlanta the next race unless they do find sponsorship.
And that would be a terrible thing for that team. Mark Martin, the 2nd place car, number 6, the Folgers Ford Jack Roush machine. After Mark Martin, again, this is in no particular order of how they're running in terms of the standings, but this is the way they are on the racetrack. Butch Miller, car number 98.
Running in 17th position, 5 laps down.
Right behind him, Ernie Irvin, driving the Junie Donlevy Ford. Here's another team that thought they had sponsorship in the first part of the year, but it's gone away, and they need a sponsor to continue racing in the series.
He's running 19th.
Jeff Bodine in car number 11, the Junior Johnson Budweiser sponsored Ford.
He's in 6th, 1 lap down.
Behind Jeff Bodine in car number 11 is the 01 car, the Days Inn Special, driven by Mickey Gibbs.
He's running in 23rd position, Bob.
And the next car is Dave Marcus, the Big Apple Market car out of Pennsylvania. Dave's had all kinds of problems, been in the pits 2 or 3 times in the last 15 or 20 laps.
He's out of the top 20.
And the 66, Dick Trickle, Cale Yarborough's automobile, Trop Arctic with an in-car camera.
He's running 8th, 2 laps down.
There we see the picture out of Dick Trickle's car. And then comes Rick Mast in the Prego Pontiac. Car owned by D.K. Ulrich. This is the car that Ernie Irvin drove last year. Oh, no, we're still inside Dick Trickle's car.
We'll watch them move to the corner. There's Rick Wilson in car 75.
The Dinner Bell Oldsmobile, followed by Dale Earnhardt in the Goodwrench Chevrolet.
Earnhardt's running 16th, 4 laps down. Rick Wilson is running 20th, 7 laps down.
And there comes, looks like Mike Alexander in the Ray Besties Buick.
And of course, the owner on this car is Bobby Allison.
He's in 18th position, 6 laps off the pace.
Now then, all I said about Rick Mast a little bit ago, just remember that, folks.
Say it again.
Okay, he's in 21st position, 8 laps down.
Next is the number 7 car, driven by Alan Kowicki. Sterling Marlin is in the pits. Alan Kowicki is the 3rd place car. Dick Berggren is there.
Bob, this is definitely an unscheduled stop. Scheduled pit stop would have been on lap 382, but Marlin has radioed the crew that he's just losing the handle. They've been talking back and forth between the spotter and the pits trying to figure out why. They've simply decided the tires have gone away. They're firing 4 tires at it and a tank of gas, and off goes Marlin, hopefully with a better handling race car than he had before.
And I'll guarantee you, Dick, that we'll see him passing some cars that were passing him before.
All right, we go back to the racetrack now. Here's Ken Schrader in car number 25. As we watch him on the racetrack, we'll tell you that Derek Cope is in for a pit stop. Ken Schrader, car number 25. Behind him is Morgan Shepherd in car number 15.
Schrader running in the 4th position. Morgan Shepherd 2 laps down in 9th.
It's the Bud Moore Motorcraft Ford, number 15. Then comes Brett Bodine, who had problems early in the race, but got them solved, and he's doing pretty well. Brett Bodine, the Quaker State Buick.
But he's out of the top 25.
Lost several laps there when they came in for a lengthy stop for transmission problem. Here's Jimmy Spencer in the 57 car.
The Heinz 57 Pontiac.
Having a good run today. He's in 10th place, 2 laps down.
And then Rusty Wallace, the Miller Genuine Draft Pontiac. And Rusty has been running good all day, but the last few 20 or 30 laps has lost the handle, drifting back.
He's 1 lap down in 7th place.
Jimmy Means, the Alka-Seltzer Pontiac.
Jimmy has been in and out of the pits quite a bit in the Alka-Seltzer Pontiac and not showing up in the top 20.
Here comes Terry Labonte, who had the 2nd place performance at the Daytona 500.
Gold Classic Oldsmobile. And there is the Tide Machine, driven by Darrell Walter.
And Labonte running 11th, 2 laps down. Walter running 14th, 2 laps down. He perhaps now has moved up to 12th behind Terry Labonte.
And brother Michael coming behind in the number 30 Maxwell House Country Time Pontiac.
Better known as Odie.
And he's running out of the top 20 because of a lengthy pit stop early in the race.
He also was involved in the spin in the early going of this event. Here's the 90 car of Ernie Irvin. We'll let him pass by. There's Harry Gant, 33. We haven't seen him or talked about him, but there he is. And Ned?
He's 2 laps down, running in 12th place right now.
And the blue and red car that just went by Harry Gant is none other than Kyle Petty, the leader.
That's right.
Of course, the 10 car was in the pits while we were doing that pan around. Bobby Hillen is still out there in the running as well. I think we missed Bobby in the car number 4 of Bill Parsons. Bill is running in 13th place, a couple of laps down.
82, Mark Stahl is still on the racetrack.
This is the bumper cam from Harry Gant's car. And now we will find the number 8 car for you. There's Bobby Hillen. He's picked up sponsorship from Mars Candy, specifically Snickers for the 1990 Winston Cup season.
Bobby currently being shown in the 22nd position, not having a real good day here today.
As if I didn't have enough problems, I got candy bars for a sponsor with my weight.
got to be loyal to these sponsors, though, Benny. So
believe me, I am, Ed.
You know, at one point, as Harry Gant comes in and gets a pit stop, the windshield wiped off, and the tires changed on the right side of the car. Phil Parsons, you can see, is also pitted just ahead of Harry Gant. Harry gets the service completed, and again, we see the fuel spilling out of the pit from the bumper cam as Harry gets back up to speed, moving back out onto the racetrack. 361 laps completed. Back in a moment. Bob Jenkins, Ned Jarrett, Benny Parsons, Dr. Jerry Punch, and Dr. Dick Bergeron back at Rockingham, North Carolina. Our first of 20 Winston Cup telecasts for 1990. Kyle Petty at number 42 leads this race. The number 3 car of Dale Earnhardt has had problems all afternoon. A serious handling problem. However, in the last few minutes, this car has been one of the fastest on the racetrack. Jerry, what do they do to correct the problem?
Well, unfortunately, he's 4 laps down right now, Bob, but they've been working on the car. Let's find out from Richard Jones what they've done with the car. Now, Richard, you struggled for a long time early on, but now the car is flying. What's the difference?
Well, we just made a lot of chassis adjustments. We jacked it up one time, thought something might have been wrong with the rear end. Made the ratchet lock and unlock. We don't know if that might have helped it. Dale said it's done better ever since we did that, so we really don't know what the problem was early on.
Well, a tough break for Dale Earnhardt. He is 4 laps down. Now, Benny Parsons and Ned Jarrett, when you jack the rear end of the car up and drop it 3 or 4 times, what are they actually doing for the ratchet in the rear of the car?
Well, there are some springs inside the rear end and those gears right up on top of each other. The spring is supposed to pop them back meshed. When they drop the rear end down, maybe those things did. The springs push those gears back meshed again. I don't know. You would think that he could drive the car if they were unmeshed, but
only Dale Earnhardt could.
Only, yeah, well, maybe Earnhardt could.
The winner of yesterday's Grand National race here at Rockingham. Now, when we went off the air yesterday after that Grand National race, it was believed that he had filed too late an entry to gain points in that Grand National race. However, NASCAR has indicated that his entry did arrive on time, and Dale Earnhardt is the leader in the Grand National point standings. There's Phil Parsons, the 25 car of Ken Schrader, and the 15 of Morgan Shepherd, and we feel that the 25 car may be headed for pit road before too long.
We're seeing what new tires will do for you. Phil Parsons was in not long ago. He just drove around Schrader and just is motoring away. We say a second half a lap is what it means to have fresh tires on.
Bill Elliott has put the car in the hauler, and they are headed out of North Carolina Motor Speedway as soon as this event is over. Bill, of course, involved in a crash along with Hut Strickland a few laps ago. Damaged the car too badly to continue in the event. And look at Ken Schrader. There is the evidence that the tires perhaps are going away on that car. He needs to stop. Meanwhile, look at Sterling Marlin. There's the evidence, the new tires.
Yes, sir. Those new tires really make a difference. Look at him. Just come off of that corner, get a bite, and take off. Watch him drive down on the inside of Morgan Shepherd in this next turn.
Ken Schrader is headed for pit road, we understand. The left rear on Sterling's car was badly damaged. That was the reason the handling had gone away on that car. There's the indication for Ken Schrader to hit the mark and get those tires changed. Let's go down to the pit area for the call of the stop.
Well, this has been Schrader's call all the way. At first, he said he wanted to stop only when the 42 car, Kyle Petty, stopped. Then he changed his mind and said, no, this thing's going away. We better stop now. In addition to getting 4 fresh tires, which they hope are going to make them go faster, you're watching a strip of tape go on the windshield so he can see better. The sun is going down. The glare had been bothering Schrader. He had called for that. We've got a couple of rounds of fight in the back end of the automobile, also to try to help him. Painful for him to sit on pit road here while this is going on, but Rusty Wallace just came by. A little over 25 seconds for Schrader.
Here's a crew cam as Jimmy Makar changes the right side front tire on Rusty Wallace's machine. Jerry Punch, go ahead.
Careful on the left side of the car, and Barry Dodson and the crew will now change left side tire. Jimmy Makar puts the left front tire on, damping the lug nuts back on with the impact grid, trying to get the car full of fuel. And Russell can have an ill-handled race car. His car was so loose he couldn't drive it. That's why they opted to come in about 10 laps early for this stop and try to get the Jets out. He was losing valuable time on the track with Kyle Petty.
And Kyle Petty is beginning to lose a little bit of his advantage, Jerry, on the racetrack. as Mark Martin is beginning to move in a little bit. You can see Petty on the left side of your screen now. You see Mark Martin coming in there. Now, a moment ago, he was about 2 3/10 seconds behind. So Petty's car, I just put the clock on him, my unofficial stopwatch here. The last time around, he was running 27.75. When he has new tires on that car, he runs about 26 1/4. So a good 2.5 seconds.
2.5 seconds, and that's what Sterling Marlin in the 94 car is running, about a 1.5 seconds faster. Kyle Petty, he passed Kyle Petty, and now he is almost, or he is more than a half a lap ahead of Kyle Petty. So.
And we expect Kyle to pit this time. Yes, there he dives off the banking as Mark Martin goes ahead. Here comes Kyle Petty in for the stop, and Jerry Punch is right there.
Well, gentlemen, they saw exactly what you saw upstairs, and that is the Kyle Petty advantage was beginning to dwindle on the racetrack. The watchers here in the pits indicated that they were not getting the fight they wanted to get. So it opted to bring Kyle in actually about 7 laps early for what would have been his scheduled pit stop. They have changed right side tires. Mark Martin now entering turn 3, pitted to turn 4. Mark Martin headed out down the front straightaway. And now we can see Mark Martin's car coming by as he will take the lead, put Kyle Petty down the left. Kyle is 23.4 seconds. He is down and away.
That's a good pit stop.
Very good pit stop for Kyle Petty. He's not only doing well on the racetrack, but the pit crew is supporting him in that role. Now, Alan Kowicki is coming in for a pit stop, as is Dale Earnhardt. Dick Goodwrench.
Well, Alan's guys are going to work on the right-hand side. There are a couple of new members of this pit crew, so they've been practicing first in the garage, then outside until the police came and told them to knock it off. Right behind him, Earnhardt's trying to knock off their tires faster than Alan Kowicki, if they possibly can. Kowicki's crew now working on the left side, as is the case with Earnhardt. Left side tires about on with Kowicki. Earnhardt's going to beat him out for sure. They're just covering Alan Kowicki, and there he goes.
26.3-second pit stop for Alan Kowicki as he goes back out onto the racetrack. Now, Kyle Petty came in with 106 laps to go. He's going to need another one, isn't he?
Yes, he will. He'll definitely need another one for tires, and he'll need another one for fuel as well.
There is Mark Martin now shown as the leader of the race, but he'll have to have a pit stop within the next few laps.
Dick Trickle is in the pits at the moment.
The in-car camera now with Mark Martin.
Boy, he came up on that 26 car in a hurry, didn't he?
Sure as the world did. Looks like he may be suffering a little bit of a handling problem, indicating that, yeah, he's going to have to come in and get some fresh tires.
You see, the problem is he has worn tires, and he's just in their way out there. He's like almost a moving chicane out there.
Look who's ahead of him. It's Alan Kowicki, who just came in for a stop. Here's the replay. Now watch Mark coming out of the corner. Oof. Look at that. Look at him wiggle.
Because the tires are just worn, and he just can't, like I said, he's a moving chicane in front of those cars with new tires.
But he's going to stay out there.
You know, Benny, I thought that radial tires were supposed to eliminate the going away type situation.
I did too. I thought they were going to be better, but obviously they aren't here at this particular racetrack.
Mark Martin's crew readies for him to come in. It could be this lap. Nope, he's staying out for another one. They have told the driver to pit when he is ready.
So Kyle Petty goes by Mark Martin, gets his lap back. There goes Kyle. Yep. He's now in the lead lap. They've got the board out for Kyle, which that's what the board he's to stop on.
For Mark Martin, that is. And he might have stayed out a few laps too long. He's going to be much further behind, even with a good pit stop, than he would have been if he had come in when Kyle Petty did. He had moved in within about a second of Kyle Petty. He's coming in this time. You see him giving the motion out there. You see the board on pit road, so they're ready for him.
Now the guy that holds the board, he used to be called the board man. He's now called the pit assignment supervisor. Jerry Punch is there for Mark Martin's stop.
And he has Mark pull the car away from the wall to give the crew plenty of room on the left side of the car to be able to get the jacket and make a four-tire change. They are cleaning the windshield. They had the lugs taken off the left side tires. They dance around to the left side. Robin Pemberton now will pull the left front wheel off. Now the jack's up in the car and the wheel can come off. Left rear tire being put on by Steve Beal. Pemberton has the left front already on. Beal, he is down and away. Great pit stop for the Folger crew.
Up through the gears once again, back up to speed.
Now, I don't know if I can explain this so anybody in the world can understand it, but normally fuel mileage is what wins races. If this race goes green flag, and that's the key question, if it goes green flag, the fellows who makes the most pit stops is going to win because he's going to keep better tires on the car.
Another wrinkle in the Winston Cup season that's a little bit different from the previous year. We'll be back right after this. Kyle Petty in number 42 continues to lead the Goodwrench 500 here at Rockingham, North Carolina Motor Speedway, and he is about to put a lap on the number 7 car of Alan Kowicki, or at least he would like to put a lap on him.
Kowicki running in 4th place.
And down through the tri-oval, and Kyle is not able to this time around. Now he closes in real tight on him going through the 1st and 2nd corners.
Just in front of them, the 90 car, Ernie Irvin, smoked badly going through 1 and 2.
The 25 car and the 27 car. Now, they're not on the lead lap, and we understand that the 27 car of Rusty Wallace may have a plug wire off.
They hope it's a plug wire off. It's normally more serious than that.
Alan Kowicki still running just ahead of Kyle Petty, trying to stay on the lead lap in 4th position.
There we saw car number 90, Ernie Irvin, the smoker I mentioned a moment ago.
Here comes Kyle working the high side of the track now. Let's see if he can...
Oh! Hey, Ernie. He said, hey, Al, I'm out there.
He gets squeezed a little bit, but no harm done.
Oh, and he certainly used his patience there by backing off, not getting himself in a position that could get him into the wall.
Boy, that car is unbelievable today at Kyle Petty. It sure is.
Now Kowicki working on the outside of Harry Gann, and again, Kyle has trouble. May have been a little bit of contact between himself and Harry Gann.
Yeah, I think the catch is coming off the corner. I don't think that he expected to run up on Gann quite that quick.
Again, Kyle trying to put a lap on Kowicki. Now works low on the racetrack down the back stretch.
Kowicki using Jimmy Means as a pick to, oh, here, Kyle's going to go on the inside. Now he's got position, and watch this. Ooh.
They're even as they cross the line. Kowicki maybe with a good advantage, but now Kyle takes over the reins, and he puts a lap on Alan Kowicki.
Tell you what, he used up some power fluid making that move.
Yeah, it doesn't take long doing that kind of racing as hard as he had to run there to get your tires heated up. Now we'll see Mark Martin in a similar position with some very fast race cars, and so he's going to have to use up a little bit of his tires.
That is Jeff Bodine in number 11 and Sterling Marlin in number 94. Jerry Punch, down to you in the pit area. Why did this crew wait so long, the Jack Roush crew on number 6, to bring him in for a stop?
Well, I spoke with Steve Meal, the crew chief, and Steve was saying, hey, the only way they're going to be able to beat Kyle Petty is if they can put him a lap down. Remember, Kyle came in and finished for 4 tires, and Mark came around and actually lapped him while Kyle was in the pit. If the caution flag had come out while they were still outside running, they would have indeed put Kyle Petty a lap down. And that would have given them the shot, maybe their only shot at beating what is a very, very potent car for Kyle Petty. But they couldn't wait very long because their car was much slower than the other cars. They had fresh rubber on, so they had to go ahead and come in and pit a couple of laps later. It was worth a chance, but it did not work out for them.
All right, so Mark Martin now remains in that 2nd position as Kyle Petty continues to show the way.
And running in 2nd place is Mark Martin. Sterling Marlin is back in 3rd now after making his pit stop a little bit earlier, and he's in the lead lap. And in 4th place is the car number 25 of Kenny Schrader. We said that Alan Kowicki was running 4th there a moment ago, but that has changed. Alan now running in 5th place, 1 lap down.
So we have had pit stops now on lap 376 with Kyle Petty. He came into the pits in 1st position, and he went out in 1st position. And we'll show you why that happened as we take a look now at our Big A Auto Parts pit stop performance report. 13.6 seconds for the driver, his slowdown and speed up time. 23.5 seconds for the crew actually doing the work on the car, for a total of 37.1 seconds for the entire pit stop, from slow down to back at normal speed.
Isn't 36 something the fastest time we've seen all day on that Big A?
I think you're right, yes.
So Kyle Petty had a great stop, 37, a little over 37 seconds.
Yep. So the question is, can he hang on and win his 3rd Winston Cup race of his career and the Unocal bonus money worth $228,000? That's, of course, in addition to all of the other purse money that he will receive and a lot of other gratuities and spoils that go to the victor.
You know, it seemed like when Dale Earnhardt found some of his handle. Rusty Wallace lost his. That's Rusty Wallace that Kyle Petty is trying to go under in turn 3, and he is under. Rusty goes high on the racetrack. Kyle puts another lap on Rusty Wallace.
Makes him 2 laps down. He's currently shown in 7th position.
Winston Cup champion, defending Winston Cup champion, now 2 laps down to the field. The number 25 car of Ken Schrader, currently running in the 4th position, gained a position on his pit stop. He came in 4th, came out in 3rd, and he pitted on lap number 372. Breaking it down, the driver took 14.2 seconds and the crew 26.3 for a total of 40.5 seconds for Ken Schrader.
At this point, Schrader's car looks awfully good, staying on the bottom of the racetrack. Not wiggling about like we saw the cars just before these last pit stops. Ned, they had their hands full a few moments ago, didn't they?
Boy, what a difference it makes when you get those new tires on those cars. Just feels like you're trading in an A model for a Cadillac.
As Jimmy Spencer running right behind Ken Schrader, staying up with him, as a matter of fact.
I think he's got visions of passing Schrader.
All right, here's Rusty Wallace now in the Miller Genuine Draft car. Let's go down to Jerry Punch, who's with Harold Elliott.
You mentioned Rusty is 2 laps down. They have been struggling here. I'm with engine builder Harold Elliott. And Harold, the car is not up to speed. What's the problem?
Rusty seems to think the plug wires come off of it, Jerry. I don't know. It's just fell down on 7 cylinders all of a sudden. It's either that or it broke the push rod, something of that nature. We can't fix it till we get a caution. If we get a caution, we'll try to raise the hood and see if we got a plug wire burned or something.
They're hoping it's a plug wire. The defending champion of the Goodwrench 300 and 500 is now being shown 2 laps down.
So Rusty Wallace, who came into this race 4th in the point standings, also with a bit of a problem here in the Goodwrench 500. There is Kyle Petty, the leader of this race in car number 42. Well, obviously, Kyle Petty has a very, very good race car for this event. The crew has supported him. When you know you have a good car, is it hard to be patient for 4.5 hours, 500 miles here at Rockingham?
It'll be difficult for me because, like I said, I'm excited. So, you know, it will. You know, anytime you're at a racetrack and you run a race this length, you know, 4.5 hours, a mile track, just around and around, then you got to be patient. You got to just bide your time. You can't put yourself in positions where you're going to get in trouble. So, you know, that'll be hard. That's where Gary comes in. Gary's real good about keeping me pretty calm down. I get a little hyper sometimes. He's pretty good about keeping you calm down in the car. If somebody passes you, run 4th or 5th most of the day, then that's fine. You know, you want to be leading, but you want to be there at the end. You can't win a race if you're not there at the end. And last year, I tried a few things that I thought was going to get me close to the front, and it ended up putting me in the garage area. So that happens, and you just learn from it. So we feel like that with the combination we've got and the way we started out this year, that we'll get stronger and stronger each race.
Well, Kyle did not compete in this race last year in the fall race, the AC Delco 500. He was 10th last year. His best finish here at Rockingham was back in 1985 in the Goodwrench 500 when Kyle Petty finished 5th.
Did he say this will get stronger and stronger as the year went on?
Wow.
I hate to see that.
Well, the rest of the competition better look out. That's for sure. But, you know, I don't think that he has punished that race car, even though he has absolutely dominated here today. I don't think he has punished the car.
He doesn't.
It's just, you know, the car is working so well, and he's doing what he has to do to keep out of trouble. We've seen him back off when he gets in tight situations, driving a very smart race.
There's the interval between 1st and 2nd position. The number 6 car of Mark Martin. You saw how far he was behind Kyle Petty now as he's working along with Jeff Bodine and number 11.
You know, Jerry Punch talked to the crew a moment ago, and they said that the only chance they had was to get Kyle Petty a lap down. And there is our leader, Kyle Petty.
Oh, he's got a nice lead.
He does. But, you know, I thought that Mark Martin was gaining on Kyle Petty, that he was going to make a run for it.
I just think Kyle is so strong this afternoon that he's able to pull away or at least maintain an advantage over just about anybody that he wants to. So we're nearing the closing stages of this 500-miler here at Rockingham with Gary Nelson leading the race with Kyle Petty. Back at Rockingham, where Kyle Petty, Randleman, North Carolina, continues to lead the Goodwrench 500 race here in Rockingham, North Carolina. And there is a young man in Rock Falls, Illinois, 37-year-old Terry Fulls, who is a very, very happy individual. He knew that Kyle was leading at the halfway point. He registered on the 900 number and then was called back, and he knew that Kyle was leading at the halfway point. And the right guard halfway challenge Pontiac Grand Prix won by Terry Fulls this afternoon. He was asked who his favorite driver was, and he said Bill Elliott, but then he said, well, Kyle Petty has to rank right up there as one of my favorites, too. Congratulations to Terry Fulls of Rock Falls, Illinois, winner of a 1990 Pontiac Grand Prix SE in the right guard halfway challenge. And you'll be able to register next time to win a Pontiac. Our next ESPN telecast will be at Darlington, South Carolina, the Trans-South 500. We're watching out back of the Dick Trickle car, 2-hour leader, Kyle Petty.
And while his Pontiac is really getting the job done out there, Dick Trickles is doing a good job as well. There's another Pontiac being pushed into the garage area. There it is, Michael Waltrip, the Country Town Maxwell House Pontiac, calling it a day.
And he joins the list of those who have dropped out of competition in this very grueling 500-mile contest.
Would have been great if Robert Myers could have went to Victory Lane today, he and his girlfriend Louise.
She might have said yes.
Alan Kowicki has a problem. The 5th place car slowing down on the racetrack. The Xerox Ford may be headed for pit road. Alan Kowicki has again suffered misfortune in a Winston Cup race. The report is that he may have dropped a valve in that car.
Boy, he's had such tough luck.
Oh, man.
Leading last Sunday at Richmond, pulling away from the field.
And look at this. That's Mark Martin, who is well off the pace.
About to say that Kowicki was leading, and car blew an engine in front of him.
Let's go down to Steve Beal and Jerry Punch.
They are standing here in the Mark Martin pit watching as the car number 7 of Alan Kowicki comes to a halt on pit road. Let's try to get a comment from Steve Beal here. Steve, your car is slowing. What's the problem?
It's dropped a valve or something. It's blowing out the exhaust pipe. Probably a piston. A valve has got down against a piston or something. It's broke, but we're going to run as long as we can.
Just a matter of time for Mark Martin. What a tough break for the young Batesville, Arkansas driver. Likewise, he is having trouble. Upfit level is good and perfect.
Well, Alan Kowicki's crew is working on the car. They're hoping the engine will still run. They're in the inside of the automobile right now working on the ignition system. There's one crew member inside. They tried some things under the hood. That didn't do it. This engine is silent at the moment. They're hoping they can get back out again. But their hopes for a real strong finish today have been dashed.
2 cars running in the top 5 have problems almost simultaneously. We're talking about Alan Kowicki, who was 5th, and Mark Martin, who was 2nd, and now look at the smoke pour from the engine of that Folgers Ford.
It's starting to come up around the shifter, the boot.
Remember a year ago, last November in Atlanta, when a huge puff of smoke was visible from our in-car cameras. Not quite as bad this time, but it's obvious that Mark Martin's day is just about finished.
There's a red light just to the left of the F1 Folger. When that red light comes on, that means the engine has died. There we see the red light. Now it is off.
Yeah, it's being reflected in the sunlight, but it's still off. But boy, look at how slow he is now down the backstretch. Mark Martin, winner of last weekend's race at Richmond, running so strong here this afternoon, has an engine problem. He is just creeping along out there. It's just a matter of time. Now he decides to bring the car into the pits, and you're right, Benny, that red light is glowing brightly now. And he'll pull into the garage area, not bothering to go to his pit, but rather pulling right back into the garage area, and Mark Martin is finished for the day.
It broke, and by now, a few laps that he did run around, I'm sure he's torn up to pieces.
Yep. There you can see Mark unhooking the shoulder belts, taking off the gloves, unstrapping himself, and climbing out of the Folgers Ford.
The unfortunate thing, I'm not sure he pulled in soon enough to beat the traffic. You know, normally if you're going to fall out, you want to beat the traffic, but I'm not sure he made it today. Tough break for Mark Martin.
Yeah, it sure is. But things continue to go nearly flawlessly for Kyle Petty. Well, behind a lot of traffic, though. Look at this.
Yes, he is, and he has been creeping up on them. He has run behind Dick Trickle for a little while. Has made no major attempt to pass them. He has just been driving along behind them, and when he can pass the car, okay. If not, he's not taking any chances whatsoever of passing any cars out there. And he should be doing that because he has about 2/3 of a lap on the second place car, which is now Sterling Marlin.
Kyle Petty continuing to run behind Ken Schrader in car number 25 and the 66 of Dick Trickle.
Boy, if you just knew these things and what was going to happen, if you just had perfect hindsight, as foresight, if Sterling Marlin had stopped just about 20 laps before he did and got those tires off, he could probably be in pretty good shape right now to maybe win this race.
Well, he's 15 seconds behind right now as Kyle Petty is running behind Ken Schrader. Schrader currently in 3rd place. Only 3 cars are in the lead lap now, and he's about to put a lap on the 3rd place car.
Indeed, as Ken Schrader goes a lap down. So now only 2 cars are on the lead lap, Kyle Petty and Sterling Marlin. And Petty is just making a shambles in this race.
You know, I just thought of something, reminded of something. This is the way Richard used to do it. This is the way his dad used to do it. Remember, Ned?
Oh, yes, here at Rockingham, too. He's the biggest winner here at this racetrack.
Let's get out and get another comment from Gary Nelson, see how things are going with the Pink Pontiac.
Well, Gary Nelson, I'm mostly wondering if you can go all the way on fuel or not.
No, we can't make it all the way. It was a shame to see the 6 car go out in one way, but we were a little relieved because he was starting to pressure us. He was gaining very slowly on us. We got to stop for fuel. Now we were going to put our attention on the car, the 94 car, and we'll just keep our eye on him.
Well, since everybody else seems to be blowing up around you, are you going to back off the pace or are you going to keep running hard?
Well, we let off just a little while ago. We started telling Kyle that he didn't have to race anymore about 20 or 30 laps ago, and he's just riding around now.
And right now, Jerry Punch is in the garage area with Mark Martin. Jerry?
Well, Mark has climbed out of his car and headed back to the car hauler. Mark, you really had a good run going today.
Just wound up short, that's all. You know, that started missing and smoking there. Probably broke a valve or something like that, but you know, the Folgers Ford was running really good today. I think we had a chance to win. Well, if Kyle broke, that is.
Can anybody handle Kyle?
No, I hope that we might be able to adjust and get where we could. We had to hope that he had a problem, which, you know, there's still time for that to happen, but Kyle's gone, man. No, you know, our car was awful good. There wasn't much we could do. You know, we gained on him at one point, and he got out of sight again. They're flying.
You've got to be very proud of this team, the way you pulled together after the adversity last week. You guys really came here and showed them you had a car that was going to be competitive.
It didn't faze us, Jerry. You know, we got a great team here, and Folgers and Valvoline and everybody's behind us, and I think we still got the fans behind us, you know. I just wish we could have got out there and mixed it up with Kyle and made it more interesting.
I guarantee you there are plenty of fans behind this young man. He's on his way to Atlanta in a couple weeks from now, maybe to victory lane. Mark Martin out of it here at North Carolina Motor Speedway.
Very popular driver indeed. So he thinks that Kyle Petty can't be caught here this afternoon. If Kyle wins, it'll be his 3rd Winston Cup win. If Gary Nelson wins, it'll be his 19th as a crew chief. The last time he was in victory lane was in 1986 with Jeff Bodine. We'll be right back. At Rockingham, North Carolina, and Winston Cup racing on this Sunday afternoon. As soon as this race is completed at 4:30 this afternoon, more auto racing, the Silver Crown event, the USAC Copper Classic from Phoenix International Raceway. That's at 4:30 until 5. At 5, the Pro Ski Tour, Plymouth US Pro Ski Tour, until 6 o'clock. Then the Senior PGA Chrysler Invitational. Variety of sports coming up this afternoon and this evening. Then tonight, we begin a couple of basketball games for you. At 7:30 live, the Southern Conference Championship featuring Eastern Tennessee State and Appalachian State. And then at 9:30 tonight, the American South Conference Championship game. So a lot of sports coming up for you this afternoon after our Winston Cup race.
You know, that Lee Trevino is unbelievable in that seniors golf. He's had a 3-shot lead going into that final round.
Just goes to show you that age doesn't mean that you can't perform anymore. Right, Benny?
That's right.
There's Kyle Petty who continues to lead this race.
Trying to win from the pole. His dad, Richard Petty, has won 61 races from the pole, more than any other driver. Next is David Pearson, who has won 37 times, and Darrell Waltrip, who has won 24 times from the pole.
Second place car now belongs to Sterling Marlin, the Billy Hagan car, number 94, Sunoco Oldsmobile.
And even with Kyle Petty backing off, running a little bit easier, he's still gaining, running away from Sterling Marlin. He's now about 17 seconds behind.
Let's get a word from the crew chief on this car with Dick Berggren.
I'm with Steve Lloyd. Steve, are you telling your driver to turn up the wick? Are you telling Marlin to step on it at this point or be conservative?
Well, he just riding right now. The car was a little bit loose.
Well, he's right now going to talk to the NASCAR official. He said the car had been a little bit loose. We'll see if we can get back at it again. What did the NASCAR officials tell you? Are they worried about the smoke?
A little bit of smoke coming off the car. He wants us to come in. We'll have to wait and see what's going on here.
It looked like
okay, that's the story. We've got some smoke. They're not sure why. They're going to bring them in.
Yeah, that smoke has intensified.
Yes, it has. We've been noticing it for a long time, almost all race long, but now it begins to get a little more prominent and a little more obvious. And it could be that the NASCAR officials are thinking about black flagging this car. They're watching it very closely. Harold Kinder, the flagman, taking a close look as it went underneath the flag stand. They're watching this car all the way around the track. There it is, pretty obvious now as it goes into the corner, and it also might be a situation where Sterling is black flagged.
Well, the pit man is out on pit road. What do you call it?
He's the pit assignment supervisor.
Okay.
Now, Cecil Gordon of Dale Earnhardt's crew was asked what his title was, and that's what he said. Let's go to Dick Berggren, who will call this stop by Sterling Marlin.
And this is a stop they certainly did not want. The smoke has been apparent for a while this afternoon. They thought at first potentially it was just a header dragging on the racetrack. Right now there's more concern than that. So far all they're doing is just putting tires on. Nobody's lifted a hood. Nobody's really looking underneath the swish of this smoke that's been coming up, except the NASCAR official. Boy, he's giving it a good look round.
Trouble on the backstretch. Car spinning. Number 90 car is involved. That, of course, is Ernie Irvin.
I believe Dick Trickle might have been involved. He was very close there.
Yes,
yeah, that's Trickle's car up in front of it, and Kyle Petty was right behind that. He had been running along behind those cars for about 15 laps.
There is the camera shot of Dick Trickle. He gets the car rolling once again, or is trying to get it started, working on the gears there. And here it is again. Now watch Kyle Petty's reaction to this. Watch him hit the brakes hard. Boy, he just barely got through that, didn't he?
Yes, he did, but he was very alert. He got on the brakes as soon as he saw something happening up in front of him, and got his car under control so that he could move inside or out, whichever way he wanted to go. It looks like Dick Trickle, he could not get his car to moving. Takes his goggles off, and just let he had moved up to 6th place.
He had reported to the crew that something broke in the back end of the race car. Here come the pit stops now. Kyle Petty in. Jerry Punch is right there.
This should be the last pit stop for Kyle Petty in the Pecan Freeze Pontiac. The crew now making sure they be very, very deliberate with this pit stop. They want to make sure they don't make any mistakes at all. Get all the lug nuts on. They will make it a forward tire change. Fill it up with fuel. They have no problem now with the fuel getting the rest of the way here. This 492-lap event. We are showing 444 laps complete, so that will be no problem at all as far as fuel mileage is concerned. The windshield getting as clean as they can possibly get this car, so Kyle will be able to see in heavy traffic when we go back to green. They're waiting to get all, and they're also jumping, pushing the rear spoiler. Here comes the car number 11 of Jeff Bodine. Kenny Schrader, Darrell Waltrip, Morgan Shepherd, the entire field. Many of the cars getting their final pit stop today. And Dick Trickle, well, thankfully, will climb out of his car and looks to be okay.
And he's running around, as a matter of fact, is getting back in the car now. I'm not sure how severely damaged that car is. Ernie Irvin's car is tore up pretty good. But it looks like Dick's at least going to ride the car back to the pit area and may have thoughts of getting back in the race. He's putting the steering wheel back in. Here is the in-car camera shot of this incident. Now we're with Dick Trickle, and look, something, ooh, boy, something
Snaps
broke
the
on the car.
outside wall, smacks the outside wall. You see the hood flapping up after he hits the wall.
Then the car spinning sideways down the racetrack.
What happened? The car gets out of shape, and when he corrects the car, it comes back and hits the wall.
Ouch.
just accelerating at full throttle off the second corner when something broke.
And again, the car went sideways, and when he corrected the car as he came back, it hit the wall with the right front.
Well, he does have thoughts of getting back in the race. He thinks the car can be repaired. He is patiently sitting in it as the crew surveys the damage.
You see, one reason he got back in the race car, if he was to get out of the race car and walk away, he would have to go to the hospital. That's a NASCAR rule. He wants to stay in the car so in case he can get it fixed, he can go back to driving.
Well, we'll see if Dick can continue to race here this afternoon at Rockingham. We're under our 7th caution of the afternoon. Back with more after this. Under caution for the 7th time at Rockingham because of a crash on the backstretch involving Ernie Irvin and Dick Trickle. Sterling Marlin, meanwhile, is back in the pit area for a change of rubber on the left side of that machine. There's the other car besides Dick Trickle that was in that crash. Now, here we're going to show it to you again in real time from the in-car camera, and we'll let you listen to it. And the other car involved in the crash was number 90, Ernie Irvin, and this is how he became involved in it. Trickle's car, or rather Irvin's car, hitting the inside wall in the backstretch.
He knocked the tire off.
Oh, he did. He hit it hard, too.
He sure did.
Both drivers having very hard contact with the outside wall in Trickle's case and the inside wall with Ernie Irvin's case on the backstretch.
You know, Dick Trickle's talking about something broke in the rear of the car. I've never had that many laps on a radial tire, but that's the scenario that the guys are telling me happens with radial tires, because he was still accelerating when the car went sideways.
Just no evidence whatsoever.
There was no evidence whatsoever, and the car just snapped up under.
Here's Rusty Wallace back in the pits. They're going to raise the hood on the car this time.
Yeah, that's what Harold Elliott said they would do during a caution flag. Let's go to Jerry Pitt. Jerry at the pits, I should say.
Well, he's been in 3 different times, gentlemen. They're raising the hood. They think they have found the plug wire that had burned through and causing the car to miss so badly. They have a couple extra plug wires, and remember, it's very difficult to get to. They're trying to shove the plug wire down to the top of the distributor, which is mounted in behind the breather, which is right against the firewall. That's why you see some of the crew members up on top of the engine. Rusty has to shut the car off, and you also run the risk of the car not restarting here in the pits. So they are continuing to work here on the Miller Genuine Draft Pontiac, trying to get that plug wire changed for Rusty Wallace. Let's go up pit road to Nick Berggren.
Well, Jerry, just a few moments ago, NASCAR asked Steve Lloyd, the crew chief for car 94, Sterling Marlin, to bring it in, take a look at it. They jacked it up, they climbed underneath, they decided the transmission is weeping ever so slightly. They added no additional fluid, which would indicate it is, in fact, a minor leak, that it's going on the headers. They're going to go out and try to ride it out.
So several cars have experienced transmission problems. The most recent, Sterling Marlin, in the 94 car, who remains at this point in 4th position, although he is a lap down. And Rusty Wallace, we understand, almost hit one of his crew guys. Let's take a look at it. Oh, he had to do a little pirouette there to get out of the way of Rusty Wallace, who was motoring out of the pit area.
I tell you, these pit guys are good athletes.
There's Dick Trickle's car. It doesn't look like it's going to be able to be repaired, but we'll answer that question when we come back to Rockingham. A closer examination of this pit stop by Rusty Wallace will show us that he really didn't come close to hitting the guy on the right front of the race car, but instead they were just simply trying to get the car out quickly to avoid going a lap down. The guy puts the hood pin back in and spins around, sending Rusty off because the pace car in the field were coming around and he was about to go a lap down.
Yes, he was. Another lap down. He is already 2 laps down.
The only car on the lead lap with Kyle Petty is Jeff Bodine in number 11, and he is at the tail end of the lead lap. So Kyle has things pretty much in hand at the moment.
He's in a great position, no question about that.
The crowd salutes the green flag as it comes back out, and the race resumes on lap number 451.
And Jeff Bodine, once again, down on the inside, is able to move out in front of Kyle Petty. It'll take him about 2-3 laps. If he decides to do that. Now, he's been running pretty conservatively here lately, but I'm sure sure he wouldn't mind having everybody lap down.
Yeah, you know where the second place car is as long as you've got him in front of you. But on the other hand, I think that he would like to pass him. There's Sterling Marlin.
And he was up right behind Dale Earnhardt when the green flag dropped. He had a terrible start, and he's just steadily dropping back. He looks like he's got a problem with the 94 car.
That smoke is still very evident coming out of the rear end of that number 94 car.
He's being shown in the 4th position. There are 3 cars that are, well, actually 2 cars that are 1 lap down because Jeff Bodine is back in the lead lap. He's in 2nd place. 3rd place is Ken Schrader, 1 lap down. Sterling Marlin is 4th, 1 lap down. Rusty Wallace is 5th now. He is 2 laps down.
Sterling a little bit squirrely coming out of the 4th corner last lap.
He's just not handling it nearly as well as he did before this caution flag. And he's just not accustomed to tires or something. I don't know exactly what it is.
Watching from Harry Gant's in car. There's the smoke once again. Kyle Petty, meanwhile, up in front of all this, trying to put Jeff Bodine a lap down, and he does do that as we continue to watch Sterling Marlin. So now Kyle Petty has a lap on the entire field as we show you those cars that have dropped out of competition. Bill Elliott out because of a crash. Hut Strickland also out because of that same crash. Richard Petty, Ricky Rudd, and Mark Martin are among the most recent to drop out. So is Michael Waltrip, Alan Kulwicki.
I made a statement while we were way on commercial to those of us here in the booth that Earnhardt was going to fool around and get himself a top 10 finish. Well, right now he is in 10th place, but he is 4 laps down.
The number 11 and 25 cars are racing for position. They're a lap down to the leader, but nevertheless, they are in a battle for 2nd spot.
Can you imagine, Kinsman, would that be a story if he was to finish 2nd with his 3rd choice automobile? But first of all, he's got to get by the 11 car driven by Jeff Bodine.
The number 57 car got squirrely last lap. Watch the right side of your frame. Jimmy Spencer with the car sideways, sliding up the racetrack and getting a handle on it as the 16 car of Larry Pearson went by on the inside.
I think Larry Pearson probably touched the left rear of Spencer's car, which forced him up high and got him a little bit squirrely.
Now, while we watch this battle for 2nd place, of course, Kyle Petty, as we have said, is in a lap by himself in the lead. In 2nd place is Jeff Bodine in the car number 11, and Ken Schrader there in 3rd. They're 1 lap down. In 4th place is Sterling Marlin. He too is 1 lap down. In 5th place is Rusty Wallace, 2 laps down. In 6th place is Darrell Waltrip. He's 3 laps down. And then in 7th is Terry Labonte, 3 laps down. Gordon Shepard is 8th, 3 laps down. And the car number 57 of Jimmy Spencer we saw there a moment ago is 3 laps down. He's in 9th place. Dale Earnhardt is 10th. Harry Gant 11th. Derek Cope is 12th. Those 3 cars are 4 laps down, and 5 laps down. In 13th position is Phil Parsons in the Kodak Film Oldsmobile number 4.
And the 94 car of Sterling Marlin was just black flagged again by NASCAR. He's going to have to come in for a pit stop. Now, although Kyle Petty has dominated this race from the very drop of the green flag, and he's got a lap lead on the entire field, don't go away, friends. Remember what happened just a few weeks ago at Daytona when Dale Earnhardt had things in hand with less than a mile to go and he lost the race?
I remember it well. You never know, that checker flag drops.
Exactly.
Dale Jarrett can tell you that from yesterday.
That's true. Less than 3 laps from the victory for Dale Jarrett in the Grand National race, and he had an encounter with a slower car, and Dale Earnhardt drove to victory.
That was Jimmy Means going down the pit road on the backstretch. Jimmy not having one of his better runs here today, but he stayed in there and kept going as much as he can.
Kyle Petty will certainly increase his standings in the Winston Cup points. He went into the race 16th in the point standings. And here comes Sterling Marlin in for the black flag stop. Dick Berggren, we'll check in with him one more time. Dick?
Well, there's really not an awful lot they can do about this without really doing a major repair under the car. They're going to go under there with some degreaser and spray it, and hopefully whatever oil it is that's coming out of that transmission and hitting the headers is going to dissipate, disappear, and at least it'll stop smoking. So we'll see if that works out. At least this time when Sterling Marlin leaves the pit, the transmission sounds fine. Last time he had a hard time getting it through gears.
Now here's a happier crew, and these guys, although they're happy, can look like that they are just a little bit tentative here. They're holding their breath.
They remember what happened to Dale Earnhardt at Daytona just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, they know anything can happen. Did you see Steve Lloyd, the crew chief on the Sunoco Oldsmobile, tell the NASCAR official, you look under
Yes, exactly. Yeah. The NASCAR officials stayed on the other side of the wall, but he was trying to be shown. The number 1 car now begins to show some smoke. That's Terry Labonte. Labonte's showing smoke in the number 1 car. He is battling with the 57 car, Jimmy Spencer, for position.
Labonte currently running 7th. Spencer running in the 8th position, trying to take that away. And they get awfully close coming off the turn.
And let's watch from Harry Gant's bumper cam how close Labonte is to him.
These cars are owned by brothers. The number 1 car owned by Richard Jackson, the 33 car owned by Leo Jackson, up out of Asheville, North Carolina.
Now we see Jimmy Spencer pulling alongside Terry Labonte down the backstretch, and Spencer taking the spot.
That should move him into the 7th position.
Now Derek Cope in number 10 is not on the same lap as Labonte and Spencer.
See how fast that pavement goes by as we look out that bumper cam of Harry Gant.
And that's around 150 miles an hour. You can imagine what it's like at 200. Talladega, Daytona, tracks of that nature.
You can also hear when he gets on and off the accelerator from our bumper cam. Microphone that's carried along with the in-car and bumper cam. So Harry Gant has Terry Labonte right behind him. We'll be back with more racing after this. We hope you're enjoying today's live coverage of the GM Goodwrench 500 from North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham, our first live Winston Cup race of the decade. Our Speed World coverage is being brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil. By AutoZone, the best parts in auto parts. And by Budweiser, Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. And a variety of sports coming up for you on ESPN after our Winston Cup race. We have the Silver Crown Classic from Phoenix International Raceway at 4:30, skiing at 5 o'clock, golf at 6 o'clock, and then this evening, 2 basketball games. Championship games, the Southern Conference Championship at 7:30, and the American South Conference Championship at 9:30 this evening. All for you on ESPN. Kyle Petty leads the Goodwrench 500 here at Rockingham, and we are coming down to the final few laps.
Kyle Petty a little bit ago had the only car in the lead lap with him, Jeff Bodine. He put the lap on him, drove away about a couple of seconds, and it just stayed there. He is really riding right now, isn't he, Ned?
Yes. You know, Benny, as much as he has led this race, everybody talks about how long the races are here at the North Carolina Motor Speedway anyway. Doesn't that make it even longer when you're sitting out there just waiting those laps to count down?
Hey, folks, we've been here a little bit over 4 hours. Kyle Petty's been sitting in that seat for about 8 or 9 hours right now.
Well, let's go down to Jerry Punch, who's with the owner of the car leading this race. Jerry?
I think Felix Zabatas feels like he's been here at least a week standing here watching his car go around. Now, Felix, we are told if your young man can hang on and you pick up the win here, you get the winner's bonus, you get the Unical bonus, possibly the winner's circle, all the contingency monies. We're talking between $700,000 and $1 million for this win today. It's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, we figure it out it's about $850,000 by the time we get our sponsor, Pete Freeze bonus money. So, but, you know, remember what happened to Earnhardt in Daytona, so we're not counting the chickens yet.
Now, you told Kyle Petty that if he picked up a win early in the year, you would buy him a Rolls Royce. Now, but he couldn't wait. He went out and bought one last week.
Well, but I told him today that if he wins the race, I'd give the money back. So he'll get it free anyway.
Well, if you got one laying around, I look good in the 42 regular Silver Cloud. So just let me know. Hey, your buddy Rick Hendrick came down a minute ago. The guy you bought this team from, to congratulate you. Rick came by to say congratulations to you.
He's a great friend, and he's probably as happy. If we win this race, he'd probably be as happy as he has won it. So, you know, but like I said, remember Earnhardt in Daytona, anything can happen. 20 laps to go, 18 laps, I don't know.
Felix Savalas, the owner of the car that Kyle Petty is driving today, and a good friend of Rick Hendrick, another car owner here in Winston Cup Racing.
So Felix is also holding his breath for the last few laps here to see if Kyle can win. His last one was at the World 600, the Coca-Cola World 600 in 1987. It's been 70 races since Kyle Petty visited Victory Lane in a Winston Cup event.
And Felix came to this country from Cuba when he was 16 years old. Very successful businessman, and bought a race team a couple of years ago.
But he came here broke. I know.
Yep.
Yeah, he didn't have anything when he came to this country. It's a real success story that he worked hard and made good money. Was one of the original owners of the Charlotte Hornets in Charlotte, North Carolina.
There's the second place car driven by Jeff Bodine, the Budweiser Ford, owned by Junior Johnson. Here's the third place car of Ken Schrader. That's, of course, one of the Rick Hendrick cars. Let's go down to Jerry Punch, who has a follow-up on the Felix Savalas interview.
You got to wonder how Felix first became interested in racing. When he came here as a refugee from Cuba, just trying to get started, trying to feed his family, he saw an advertisement in the paper in Charlotte that they were going to pay $50 a day for extras in a movie there at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So he decided to go out and get in line to be an extra. When they looked at it, he said, hey, you don't look like a typical Southern guy that belongs on a racetrack, but we've got a job for you, it'll still pay $50. They put him in a car, told him to drive 100 yards straight ahead, right into that big concrete wall. Well, he did it. Spent a couple of weeks in the hospital, but he did get paid $50. And, of course, that was his first ever involvement in stock car racing.
All right, and he is 11 laps away from being the winning car owner here at Rockingham, North Carolina. Can he hold on to do it? We'll be right back. We are under caution at Rockingham because of a spin over in turn number 2 involving Derek Cope. Spun up the banking, then came down. Don't believe he hit anything, but it comes with only 9 laps to go. Here comes Derek Cope in for a pit stop. And we thought that Kyle Petty was going to be coming in, but he did not on that particular lap around. Now, here's a replay of what happened. The Derek Cope spin. We're watching from Harry Gant's bumper cam. Oh, my gosh.
Derek Cope was alongside Harry Gant going in turn 1. They were racing for position.
Watch this and listen to it. Did a nice job keeping it off the wall. He's got the tires changed on the Purolator Chevy and moved back out onto the racetrack. Derek Cope, winner of the Daytona 500.
Now, the green flag is scheduled to come back out the next lap, so none of the leaders have pitted here, and of course there are not that many laps remaining, and you know there's always a possibility of a goop up in the pits, even as well as they've performed today. I don't blame Kyle Petty and Gary Nelson for not bringing him in here. Of course, Jeff Bodine did not come in either, so Kyle just needs to ride it out from here on.
Let's see how those radios are going to be on this first lap after a restart, and they picked up some debris off the racetrack. Green flag.
6 laps to go for Kyle Petty. 486 completed. 492 will complete the distance. And Jeff Bodine on the inside line once again gets back on the lead lap, but all Kyle Petty has to do is keep him in sight. Here comes Dale Earnhardt to the inside of Kyle Petty down the backstretch, and Dale tries to get a lap back.
Yeah, I think Kyle will just sort of play it cool there. He doesn't want to race with any of those fellows. He doesn't need to at this point. Just 5 laps to go now. All he needs to do is just sit there and try to run by himself. Let those fellows race for their position.
Dale Earnhardt is in 10th position after many, many problems this afternoon, but still hanging in there to gain a top 10 finish. Petty now at the end of the backstretch into turn number 3. This time by there will be 4 more laps to go. Behind him, Ken Schrader and Darrell Waltrip are running very close together.
Schrader running in 3rd place, Waltrip running in 6th place. There's a lap that separates those two. In fact, 2 laps that separates those 2 cars. Waltrip is 3 laps down. Schrader is only 1 lap down.
If Kyle Petty wins this race in 3.5 laps, added to the prize money posted by the Speedway and the 76 Unical Challenge money, he'll pick up over $300,000 and surpass the first place stock car racing record of $204,000 won by Bill Elliott in 1987 at Daytona 500. Here's a race for position. Sterling Marlin in number 94 and Rusty Wallace in 27.
Rusty's made a pit stop this last caution flag, has 4 new tires, and Sterling Marlin's still able to get by him in turns 1 and 2.
So Sterling Marlin now goes to 4th position. Rusty Wallace is in 5th. We've got 2 more laps to go for Kyle Petty. 2 to go.
This is unbelievable.
Kyle Petty has just totally dominated this race. He was the pole sitter at almost a mile an hour faster than the 2nd place qualifier. And the car has performed as well during the race as it did during qualifying. Here he comes off the 4th corner. Earl Kinder has the white flag in hand. Is 1 more mile on the Rockingham, North Carolina racetrack, and the win will belong to Kyle Petty. And the Unical bonus challenge money will be won here again, just as it was for the first time last year when Rusty Wallace walked off with it. Kyle Petty now is between turns 3 and 4, playing it very conservatively, dropping the car to the low side of the racetrack. Off corner number 4, the checkered flag waves, and Kyle Petty has won the Goodwrench 500 at Rockingham and picks up the $228,000 in Unical bonus money.
What a great win. What a super win for Kyle.
A lot of other bonus money as well, as we've talked about. Felix Sabato said maybe $800-some-thousand. Let's go down to the pits and get Gary Nelson's reaction.
Well, his reaction is with Felix Sabato. There is just absolute pandemonium down here. Gary, you blew him in the weeds today.
Well, I think we picked the best race to do it because of all the money involved for us winning the pole and getting the inner circle now, so we're really happy.
Was this a special effort, or can we expect more of this same kind of thing?
I think people better get used to us running up front anyway. I don't know if we can dominate this much again, but at least we're going to be up front.
Now, when Kyle took the white flag, you talked to him on the radio, and you talked to him again as he made that last lap. What'd you tell him?
Well, I told him he's done real good so far. Don't screw up now.
You're known to work both on the mechanical end of the car and also the psychological end. Which was most important here?
Well, I think the car was just unbelievable. The motor was so good. The car handled good all day. Everything was great. So I think the car was, and what Kyle's car was great.
And that's Gary Nelson. He's your pit crew chief for the winning automobile here. First time that they've dominated like this. Gary Nelson, Kyle Petty winning for the first time together.
Victory Lane, a happy place here at Rockingham for our road handler winner circle interview. Here's Dr. Jerry Punch.
Kyle getting a big hug from Patty, his wife, and the family here as they are celebrating Victory Lane. Kyle, you did it in style, my friend.
Well, I tell you what, man, the way this car's run since it came off the trailer is a tribute to Gary Nelson and John Wilson and everybody that works at the shop and worked all last year to get this thing going. And we just kept running ahead on in the walls last year, but this year it seems to be turning around for us.
A lot of money today, big guy. I mean, not only we're talking about the halfway challenge, we're talking about winning the race, we're talking about the Unical $228,000 and the winner's circle. We're talking probably $700,000 to $1 million. Is that's quite a bit of cash.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I was thinking about it all day long. I tell you, I tell you, man, this Peak Pontiac, it worked perfect all day. You know, I can't say enough about the crew and what getting me in and out of the pits first and second all day long. And it's their race, man. They won it. I just rode around in the car.
Got to be a good omen for 1990. This has got to serve notice that this Sabco team is going to be a contender every week.
Yeah, it is. You know, like I said, we had such bad luck last year, and everybody stood behind us. Felix, our owner, Felix Sabato, our owner, Pontiac, Peak and Freeze, Uniden, everybody stood behind us. Mobile One came on board this year, even as bad a year as we had, so we knew people had confidence in us. We just had to come out and show people that we could do it, and so far this year we've been able to do it in a couple races.
He certainly showed them a day. A dominating win at North Carolina Motor Speedway for Kyle Petty. He gets a big kiss from his daughter and his wife here, and car owner Felix Sabato is here in Victory Lane. The Goodwrench 500 is over, and Kyle Petty has won it. We'll be back with more from North Carolina Motor Speedway after this.
Kyle Petty has won the Goodwrench 500, leading all but 58 laps of this 492-lap event. Jeff Bodine second, then Ken Schrader, Sterling Marlin, and Rusty Wallace. It was a race that he just totally dominated, guys.
Bob, it was unbelievable. I really and truly, I knew that Kyle Petty had a good car, but whether he could do it for 500 laps, 492 laps, unbelievable.
Never faltered all the way. Just stayed right there all the way.
There are the top 15 finishers. Now let's show you the revised point standings. Dale Earnhardt holds on to the points lead. He endured lots of trouble this afternoon, but still drove to a 10th place finish and maintains the points lead. Rusty Wallace is second, then Morgan Shepherd. Kyle Petty moves into 4th position in the point standings, and look at this. Jimmy Spencer has moved into 5th position in the point standings by virtue of an 8th place finish here this afternoon. It was a new race record, 122.864, the average speed for Kyle Petty's win. We'll be back with more from Rockingham in a moment. There once again are the top 5 finishers, and the Western Auto mechanic of the race is Steve Lloyd on the 4th place Sterling Marlin car. Let's get a quick comment from the 2nd place finisher, Jeff Bonine. Dick?
Well, second's nice, but boy, that number 42 was a rocket today, wasn't it?
I think everyone's happy for Kyle, Felix Abatis, Gary Nelson. They dominated the whole showdown here, qualifying the race. But, you know, we did pretty good with that Budweiser Ford. We had Junior Johnson out there turning some wedge bolts, and Tim Brewer's in there making adjustments. We came back. We're holding our heads up. We had a good run, just a little short. Hi, kids. Hi.
There's Jeff and Kathleen Bodine, happy to finish second here this afternoon.
We will be back to wrap up our first Winston Cup telecast of 1990 after this message. Stay with us. The top 15 finishers in the Goodwrench 500 this afternoon. Kyle Petty with his 3rd career Winston Cup win at Richmond, at the World 600 in Charlotte, and here today at the Rock, North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham. Coming up next here on ESPN, the Silver Crown portion of the Copper Classic from Phoenix International Raceway. That's from 4:30 until 5 o'clock. Our next NASCAR Winston Cup telecast will be on April 1st. We'll be live in Darlington, South Carolina for the Trans-South 500. We hope you'll be with us. Our congratulations to Kyle Petty and crew on their outstanding win here this afternoon. And my thanks to Vinnie Parsons and Ned Jarrett for their help in the booth, and from the pit area, Dick Berggren and Dr. Jerry Punch. Don't forget Speed Week coming up this Friday. We'll see you on April 1st. For now, Bob Jenkins. So long, everyone.